Chapter 27:30. Huff, huff, huff. His comrades, who were breathing heavily, gathered around Yen Zi, who had discovered the situation. They all looked at the ground. Xia Jinyuan, who was kneeling on the ground, held a slotted dagger in his hand and gently pried the shards away. A very clear bear paw print appeared in front of everyone. At this moment, everyone breathed a sigh of relief. Qing Niao must have been running in front, and the black bear was chasing after her. Now that there was a bear paw print, Qing Niao's footprints could be found. Li Jinyin squatted on a protruding rock and looked at the collapsed area. From here, he could see the location of the black bear's footprints. Thinking about Yi Qian's height, he set his gaze on a spot. He got up, walked a few steps, and squatted down again. His hands parted the thick grass, leaving two very clear footprints on the ground. Qing Niao is fine. His fingers gently pressed on the footprints. His cold, handsome face had a faint, breezy smile. She tried to ambush the black bear here, and was even prepared to shoot. Q King, we can move now. Up until now, his sister was safe and sound. Xia Jinyuan had already walked over. After hearing Li Jinyin's last sentence, he also squatted down and pressed on the footprints with his fingers. The two of them looked up at each other, a smile in their deep, unfathomable eyes. This is a watershed. Qing Niao could have gone in the direction of her original training, or she could have gone around the black bear, because she didn't pay attention to the direction and deviated. At this point, even Xia Jinyuan's tone was much calmer. Once the direction deviates, split into two teams and look for Qing Niao. Roger, Roger. The 14 of them replied in unison. Once again, they searched for Yi Qian's footprints. Yi Jian, who had slept until 5:30, opened her eyes. It was no longer pitch black in front of her eyes. Instead, she saw a bright light. She saw crisp green trees that were still wet from the rain, the dark sky, and a wild chicken courageously running through the bushes, clucking all the way. The black bear's body temperature had completely cooled down. Only the spot where she slept still had a trace of warmth. Yi Jian got up and stretched her stiff neck. Looking at the black bear again, she massaged her temples as she felt a headache coming on. In the report, she had to explain why she killed this national protected animal. Her comrades in the team had headaches writing reports, and so did she. It would be a pity to let the black bear rot until only its skeleton. She needed the forest police to transport it out. After thinking about how to deal with the black bear, Yi Jian spread out the map and habitually took out the GPS to locate it. As soon as she took it out, it was full of mud and water. Even so, at least it could give her location. As for the earpiece, it was already broken. She had forgotten that she couldn't contact the team. Putting away the GPS, Yi Qian climbed up the tree and looked into the distance. Yi Qian came down from the tree and spread out the two maps. After about 10 minutes, the maps folded. Yi Qian didn't leave immediately. Instead, she observed her surroundings. Although she had been running all the way last night, she hadn't gone astray. It was just that she had lost her bearings when she was walking around with the black bear. Based on the distance from the GPS and the map, she was about 15 kilometers away from her original training location. Captain Xia would definitely look for her footprints, but now her position had deviated. Yi Jian furrowed her brows slightly, her face a little solemn. Should she stay here and wait, or do I have to walk another 15 kilometers? Chapter 27:31. Yi Qian made his choice in less than a minute. He climbed up a tree and used a shovel to chop off some branches to cover the black bear. He then cleaned up the area and immediately left for the place where the team had trained before. She had originally planned to go there, but because she had deviated from her original direction, she ended up here. The best way to meet up in the vast mountains was to go to the place where the two of them had stayed together before. As for following the footprints, she wasn't sure if the night's rain had washed away her and the black bear's footprints. To be safe, it was best to go to the place she had decided on earlier. With a decision, her goal was clear. With a clear goal in mind, Yi Qian strode toward the location he had decided on. After about an hour or so, Li Jinyin and the Special Forces soldiers in his team removed all the branches that were covering the black bear. Everyone looked at the huge creature in front of them and sucked in a breath of cold air. This is my first time seeing it. Big Eel, whose eyes were filled with surprise, used the tip of his foot to nudge the black bear. If I were to encounter it, I'm afraid I wouldn't be able to handle it in a short time. Even if it wasn't for you, it would be the same for me. It's a huge monster. When we train in the deep sea, we have sonar all around to prevent sharks and whales from entering by mistake. Nothing you put in the mountains will stop the big guys from entering. Another water demon from the Storm Commandos also said with a look of surprise. Li Jinyin didn't look at his comrade who was speaking. Instead, he said calmly, "Check the black bear's body and see if there are any injuries." If there were several bullet holes in the body, it meant that Qing Niao and the black bear had indeed had a fierce battle. If there were only 1 or 2 bullet holes, it meant the opposite. Li Jinyin directly checked the black bear's head. When he removed the branches, he immediately saw dried blood around the black bear's head. Soon, they realized that other than the bullet hole in the head, there were no other injuries on the black bear's body. Everyone looked at each other and read the same thing in each other's eyes. Amazing, Qing Niao. Contact the forest police and get the black bear out. Li Jinyin could finally put down the heavy stone in his heart. Other than the head, there were no other injuries on the black bear. It was obvious that his sister did not have a fierce battle with the black bear last night. At a distance of nearly 3 to 4 meters, she finished off the black bear with a blank cartridge. The bullet was fired from a high angle and a low angle, which meant that she had finished shooting from a tree. The Forest Armed Police had long known that the troops trained in the mountains did not encounter a landslide. Other than being wet, there were no other problems. At this moment, he received a satellite call saying that a black bear had been hit by a lone comrade. The armed police officer who answered the phone stiffened. A lone comrade killed a black bear. How could this big guy be killed? Last night, there was an earthquake in the mountains. The guys who live in the mountains are all intelligent. The black bear is a big guy who loves to be irritable. Ken was shocked and happened to meet a soldier who was alone, so he was killed. Commander Ding, who was still holding half a steam bun in his hand, walked into the office. He was still eating breakfast when a soldier came to report the situation. He did not finish his breakfast and left with a steam bun. He said to the squad leader who went to transport the black bear, "Don't ask for the reason when you go there. You guys don't get off the helicopter either. Put down the rope and let them tie up the black bear themselves. You guys just pull it up and leave. Don't talk nonsense. No one will think you're mute." Chapter 2732. Yes, sir. The squad leader, who had been in charge of the supplies in the mountains, immediately left with his 3 comrades in a helicopter. Not long after the helicopter took off, Xia Jinyuan led the Snowfield Brigade to the location where they had trained 2 days ago. The 7 of them searched around the area, but they didn't find any trace of Qing Niao. Xia Jinyuan immediately asked Han Jing to contact Li Jinyin with the satellite phone. "The black bear that chased you guys last night has been killed by Qing Niao. The situation is looking good." The weather was getting better. Li Jinyin changed into a dry combat uniform. Because he thought Qing Niao was fine, he even smiled faintly. The black bear was only shot in the head. Other than that, there are no other obvious injuries. In other words, his little fox didn't have a fierce battle with the black bear. Xia Jinyuan also thought of this. The light in his dim eyes began to dim slightly. In the end, it was so bright that it was a little scary. It was like the first rays of the morning sun shining into his eyes. It was very bright, but also very hot. Understood. Leave the black bear to the forest police. You guys stay here and wait for my news. When I receive Qing Niao, we will set off together. The rendezvous location remains unchanged. He licked the corner of his mouth. An unknown light flashed in the depths of his dark eyes. It was a little evil, a little cruel, but also a trace of tenderness that couldn't be easily seen. Very good, little fox. It's time for us to settle the score together. Yi Qian didn't know that she was going to be punished, but she soon found out. Looking at the tall and slender figure walking toward her, Yi Qian wanted to escape. The surrounding comrades tactfully retreated. At this time, "Sai, good luck to you, Qing Niao. There's nothing wrong with sacrificing a pawn to save the king. What's wrong is, why didn't you discuss it with Q King and catch Q King off guard and act alone like a rabbit. Taboo! Taboo! Qing Yao! Qing Yao, you violated Q King's taboo. Xiaojin Yuan walked towards Yi Jian with a cold and expressionless face, but his body was obviously filled with anger. The soldiers of the Shui Yu team all silently moved away. Good luck to you, Qing Yao. I wonder if Q King will be merciful to you on account of you being a female soldier. When have you ever seen Q King show mercy to someone who has made a mistake? Do you still remember how we teased him when he first took over our team? G3 replied coldly to the T8 combatant who asked the question. His gaze was fixed on the figure who had already walked up to Qing Yao. Q King, you're clearly the stingy Q King. The T6 combatant chuckled and joked about how they used to tease each other. The stingy king was stingy about everything. He was stingy about every minute and second. He was stingy about the details and mistakes. In the end, his comrades who were originally unconvinced by him were all convinced. It couldn't be helped. Although the problems he picked out were all small ones, he could always make them suffer from the great harm caused by these small problems. After a long time, everyone was convinced by this young captain who had come out of nowhere. After countless trials and tribulations together, the tacit understanding between them grew deeper and deeper. Needless to say, there was no need for Q King to say anything. They knew what he meant just by looking at him in battle. Now that he was walking towards Qing Yao, everyone knew that Qing Yao was going to be scolded again. So, don't expect Q King to show mercy, let alone let Qing Yao off easily. G3 concluded and led his comrades to retreat again. That was because Q King glanced in their direction with a sharp gaze. Chapter 2733. Stop looking. Stop looking. Back off. His gaze is killing me again. Back off the warning line. Bullsh asterisk T warning line. F asterisk CK, are you stupid? Back off to a place where we can't see Q King and Qing Yao. That's outside the warning line. Haha, you're so smart. Rustling sounds could be heard. Their drenched comrades retreated as fast as they could. Beyond the warning line, where they couldn't see what the two people in front of them were about to do. After confirming that there was no one behind him, the cold Xia Jinyuan suddenly stretched out his hand and hugged Yi Jian, who had frightened him the whole night, tightly in his arms. Yi Jian, you sure have guts, he said in a low voice, gritting his teeth. You're so gutsy that you've successfully angered me again. He hugged her tightly and felt her warmth passing through their clothes into his body. Xia Jinyuan's tall and straight body trembled slightly as he regained his life after the disaster. Yi Qian was a little dumbfounded. Was he hugging her and warning her now? Why don't you let go of me first, then you can deal with me later? Yi Jian said anxiously. Ever since he walked out from behind the tree, she could feel his anger from the cold air around him and the way he looked at her. Her captain was angry. Why was he angry? Yi Qian had never considered the possibility that he would be angry. Countless possibilities flashed through her mind, and in the end, she was left with only one. After the reason for his anger was fixed in her mind, Yi Qian knew she was going to be punished. She had been beaten up by him for playing tricks on the training ground last year. Today was the second time she was being punished. She didn't feel uneasy or afraid. She only felt at ease when he hugged her tightly. Yi Qian raised her hands that were hanging by her sides and slowly hugged his broad and thick back. Her right hand gently patted his back. As she clapped her hands, his cold voice sounded in her ear. Sacrificing your soldiers to protect your commander? Very good, that's cool. Acting first and reporting later is going to be a problem for me. I'm already prepared to be punished. Yi Qian sighed. I've already realized where I went wrong and made you angry. But at that time, when I heard that you decided to lure the black bear away, I only had one reaction. You can't go. It's the best decision for me to go. I also guessed that you would stop me. I only guessed that you would stop me. I didn't think too deeply about it. Without any discussion, without even agreeing on a general meeting point, and without even giving him any time to prepare, they had directly acted when the communication system was already broken, acting on their own accord. There was only one reason why he was angry, because she had acted without his permission. Fine, fine. She was willing to be punished. When Xia Jinyuan heard the reason why he was angry, the anger in his eyes grew bigger instead of being suppressed. Sometimes she was so calm that it was terrifying. Xia Jinyuan tightened his grip again. Even his handsome face revealed a hint of sharpness. His hoarse voice seemed to be suppressed by something. While it sounded tense, it was also dark. Your actions were indeed the reason for my anger. But other than that, is there no other reason? Other reasons, of course there were. I know there are other reasons, but aren't we in the middle of training? I don't think it's appropriate for me to say other reasons. So, you want me to let go of you before we talk about this? Xia Jinyuan pressed. Yi Qian was a little embarrassed. He cleared his throat before answering. Aren't you afraid of being seen and causing a bad impression? Chapter 2734. As soon as she opened her mouth, Xia Jinyuan found an outlet for his anger. He clenched his fists tightly and said through gritted teeth, acting without permission, unable to contact you, stormy weather, mountain collapses, black bears chasing after you. Yi Qian, you made me worry the entire night. I was worried that something would happen to you, worried that you would get hurt, worried that you would encounter a mountain collapse, worried that you would be bitten by a black bear. For the entire night, every minute and every second felt like I had lived for another 26 years. The man's voice was so tense that there was no elasticity in it at all. It was as if it would shatter into pieces with just a slight pressure. Yi Qian's heart melted into water. No, nothing will happen to me. We promised each other that we would work hard and not let anything happen to us. Captain Xia, I didn't forget. While his heart melted, he was also deeply moved. I found my family, and I haven't gotten along well with them yet. How could anything happen to them? The situation last night was indeed dangerous, but I knew what I was doing. I don't regret making such a decision. I'm a soldier, and you're the commander. I had to sacrifice the soldiers to save the commander. I believe that any of my comrades would have made the same choice as me last night. Yes, I know where I went wrong. I'm willing to accept punishment and learn from it. I won't make the same mistake again. Xia Jinyuan had the urge to bite her neck. When he was beaten up by the devil last night, he didn't even try to block the blow. He was too flustered, so flustered that he felt as if a big hole had been dug in his heart. The cold wind kept pouring into his limbs, and even raising his hand was particularly stiff. As for the fist that landed on his body, he felt the pain, and at the same time, he felt that his heart was still alive and his body could still move. Using the pain to cover up his flustered heart was what he had hoped for the most. He hoped that the devil's fist would hit him harder. He hoped that the devil would use all his strength to beat him up so that he could feel that he was still alive. He thought about biting her neck, and in the next second, Xia Jinyuan really did it. It wasn't a light bite, but a hard bite. Caught off guard, Yi Qian was in pain. His body stiffened, and then he didn't dare to move. Don't bite too hard. If you bite too hard, my brother will see it, and then you'll be the unlucky one. She didn't dare to move and could only remind him softly. At this time, she was still thinking about his own safety. Xia Jinyuan's heart ached, and he was touched. Tears welled up in his eyes. The Devil King was right. He, Xia Jinyuan, must have cultivated good fortune in his previous life, the life before that, and the life before that, countless generations. That was why he had Yi Jian's good karma today. That was why he had such a great fortune. How many people in this world would be able to do what she did when she used her life to remember them? How many men could have such good karma? Xia Jinyuan, who had tears in his eyes, bit her harder. He bit her for at least a minute before letting her go. His warm, thin lips did not leave immediately. Instead, he gently kissed the tender skin that had been bitten by him and used his tongue to lick it again and again. It was very, very salty. There was her sweat and also the rain from the sky. Yi Qian's heart trembled. This man was really scared. He was so scared that even his lips were trembling. He was scared that something would happen to her. He was scared that something would happen to her. He was scared that he would lose her. This powerful man who seemed to be omnipotent was so scared that his tall body was trembling. Chapter 2735. Xia Jinyuan rarely lost his composure. It could be said that Yi Qian had never seen him lose his composure before. His image in Yi Qian's heart was like a giant, a mountain, and a river that could not be crossed. Even when she lost contact with him after entering the snowy mountains with the soldiers to rescue the art troupe that was trapped in the avalanche, the man in front of her had never lost his composure. At that time, she had the Devil King, J5, Long Eagle, and other comrades by her side. Facing the same natural disaster, he did not panic when he found her. That was because she was not alone at that time. But this time, in such bad weather and a very dangerous situation, she was the only one facing it. This man was afraid. He was really afraid of losing her. Her neck was burning in pain from the bite, but her heart was boiling, so hot that tears were flowing out her eyes. You were all waiting for me to come back. How could I let anything happen to me? I'll be fine. Captain Xia, for you, for myself, for my family, I won't let anything happen to me. I'll definitely protect myself, well, so that you can all be at ease. Yi Qian, whose heart was boiling because of the strong emotions he suddenly released, spoke softly and tried her best to comfort the man who had lost his composure because of her. Xia Jinyuan was indeed afraid. He was really afraid. In the face of a hail of bullets, he was not afraid at all. Even if he was shot, it was a calamity that soldiers had to go through. As a Special Forces soldier, it was unbelievable that he had not been shot before. Therefore, if one day he knew that Yi Qian had been shot, he would not be so afraid. But this time he was afraid. He was really afraid. She had faced all the dangers alone. He really did not want to experience this kind of fear again. But it also made him more aware that danger was everywhere between them. One day they might die. One day, not even a corpse would be left. I'm a little regretful, Yi Qian. I'm suddenly regretting it. Even after hugging her for a long time, Xia Jinyuan did not let go of his arm. Instead, he used more and more strength, as if he wanted to strangle her into his bones. He murmured softly, I'm really regretting it. Yi Qian, what was there to regret? Xia Jinyuan regretted making her a soldier, regretted making her so delicate, regretted making her follow him around for training. There were too many regrets. As those thoughts of regret flashed through his mind, Xia Jinyuan was even more aware that the girl in his arms was his life. Her existence was the existence of his life. What's the use of regretting? It was useless. Even if he regretted it, it was useless. Because of Yi Jian's safety, even someone as powerful as Xia Jinyuan's unbreakable state of mind was shaken. Yi Qian's expression hardened. I have no regrets, Captain Xia. The path I've chosen is the path I love the most. I love my profession, I love the military uniform I'm wearing, and I look forward to fighting a bloody battle with you. I don't regret it. I definitely won't regret it. Captain Xia, this is my own choice. Other than myself, even you can't change my mind. Captain Xia, my lover, you don't know that I've chosen this path to truly come back to life. I've truly become a human for once. I've lived a dignified and enjoyable life. If I hadn't chosen this path, how could I have met you? She did not regret it. After living 2 lives, the one thing she did not regret the most was joining the military. If she hadn't joined the military, she would not have met him, she would not have fallen in love, and she would not have been able to reunite with her family. Chapter 2736. Captain Xia, don't say such things again. I don't like it at all. Also, I'll interpret it as you regretting meeting me. Yi Qian told Xia Jinyuan in a serious tone. Her calmness also made Xia Jinyuan understand that the girl in his arms had really grown up. She had already become a qualified and outstanding Special Forces soldier. He should be gratified and shouldn't say something like regret. Training in life had to be treated differently. Only by doing so could he keep calm. Just like last night, when facing Li Jinyan's questioning, he told him that this was the choice of a soldier. Only in front of her would he show his weakness. No one else could see how worried he was about Yi Qian acting alone. I won't say it again. I won't say it again in the future. There's nothing to regret, only a choice. Xia Jinyuan chuckled softly, and the confusion between his brows disappeared instantly. Little fox, this is the choice between you and me. You provoked me, so you have to take responsibility for the rest of your life. You provoked me, so you can't escape. You're destined to follow me. Yi Qian didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Captain Xia, I've never provoked you. You're the one who provoked me. He was playing the blame game now. Before I met you, I was prepared to be single for the rest of my life, never get married, and stay in the army for the rest of my life. But you appeared and forcefully barged into my life. You were so dazzling as the sun, constantly emitting heat that made me want to get close to you. Little fox, do you dare say that you didn't provoke me? Since you provoked me, you have to take responsibility. This time, I'm angry at you for acting on your own initiative, but I also admire your spirit of sacrifice. You have the awareness of a soldier, you know how to consider the big picture, and you know what the most beneficial choice is. But you're also wrong, my big mistake. I've never advocated for the team members to make decisions on their own when it comes to dangerous missions, and I don't like them to act first and report later. The lieutenant colonel released her hands and stood in front of her. The smile on his handsome face had already disappeared, and the coldness that belonged to Q King gradually appeared. Finally, his deep and affectionate black eyes were cold. They all know that I have these minefields that they can't touch. They know very well what kind of punishment they will face once they touch my minefields. Qing Yao, your decision last night just happened to step on my minefield and successfully angered me. Therefore, it was time for her to accept her punishment. He did not give her any time to rest, nor did he give her any time to catch her breath. If she made a mistake, she would be punished on the spot. This was Xia Jinyuan's way of doing things. 4 hours of standing as punishment. You were so tired last night, you'll pass out if you stand for another 4 hours. T6 muttered softly and looked sympathetically at Yi Qian, who was standing under the sun. He only dared to mutter and did not dare to plead for mercy. If she really fainted, the one who would be the saddest wouldn't be anyone else but Q King. T6 thought to himself. Then he added silently, with Qing Yao's stamina, the possibility of her passing out is not high. However, let's not go near Q King today. The atmosphere is too oppressive, and whoever touches him will be unlucky. V8 moved closer to T6 and finished his words in a low voice. No one dared to step forward to plead for mercy for Qing Yao. Q King's rule was to punish those who made a mistake, and all his comrades were no exception. Qing Yao, who had already become a reserve Special Forces member of the Snowfield Brigade, was no exception. Chapter 2737. All of you shut your mouths. K7's tone was low as well. Hearing his comrades mumbling behind him, K7, who was about to complete the climb, ordered coldly. In front of them was a cliff. Other than Qing Yao, all of his comrades, including the water demons, had to complete this mission today. They had to go up first and then come back down. Only when everyone had completed this mission could Qing Yao, who was punished to stand, move. It was supposed to be 4 hours, but the water demons led by the Demon King hadn't arrived yet. 15 kilometers would take an hour or so on average. Since they were still walking on a mountain path, multiplying the time by 2, it would still take them 2 hours. 2 hours later, the Demon King and the others arrived at the bottom of the cliff and started to climb. A round trip of 8 people would take another 2 to 3 hours. Including the time they needed to start climbing, Qing Yao would have to stand still for at least 4.5 hours. The coldness in K7's eyes deepened. G3, who had completed the climb with his bare hands, looked at K7 meaningfully. Seeing K7's pursed lips, G3's heart skipped a beat. K7's reaction was a bit too much. Your gaze makes me uncomfortable. K7, who was sensitive, caught his comrade's meaningful gaze. He said in a calm voice, I admire Qing Yao, but I don't have a crush on Qing Yao. His comrade was too sensitive and honest. Even someone as calm as G3 couldn't help but chuckle. You don't usually care about these things. I'm just overthinking. I'm not overthinking. Qing Yao has the smell of blood on her. That woman's period is here. K7 from the forensics team talked about Yi Qian's period with a calm expression. He didn't think there was anything wrong with it. She doesn't look too good. She might really faint. If you have time to talk, why don't you hurry and climb up? Q King must know. but he has already given his orders. Military orders don't change. He's the captain and the soul of our team. It's useless even if he knows. It's up to us to buy time for Qing Yao. When G3 found out that Yi Qian was on her period, she felt awkward. However, K7 was calm and even analyzed the risks. Her awkwardness disappeared along with her concern for Qing Yao. With a cold expression, he said in a deep voice, "Hurry up. Even if it's 10 minutes earlier, we can prevent her from standing 10 minutes shorter." Yi Qian couldn't hide her period from her comrades. Her period had always been reported in the middle of the month, and she hadn't taken any pads. Blood seeped out, and the stench of blood spread out. The special forces of the Snowfield Brigade were very sensitive to the smell of blood. The moment the K7 stepped on the rocks near Yi Qian's feet, they could smell the blood. Soon, the comrades and the team all knew about it. Glancing at the handsome and cold Q King, everyone put on their combat gloves and did their best to climb with their bare hands. Hurry up and speed up. Don't let any accidents happen. The three of you will go together to save time. Okay, I'm not surprised. When they reached the edge of the cliff, they communicated with their eyes and hand speed for a few seconds. Under Xia Jinyuan's cold gaze, they started to climb. When Li Jinyan heard the news, he led his soldiers and walked very quickly. Without any worries, his footsteps were exceptionally light. Therefore, when he walked quickly, he didn't feel tired at all. Instead, he felt that it was too slow. The mountains in Tibet were not as hot in July. After the heavy rain, even if the weather was sunny, there was still a hint of coolness. This coolness made the special forces feel very comfortable. Chapter 2738. Li Jinyan, who had rushed over from 15 kilometers away, saw Yi Qian standing motionlessly under the sun with a gun in her arms. His cold eyes suddenly darkened. Rest for 3 minutes and adjust your breathing. Hurry up and finish the climb. Li Jinyan already knew what training they were going to do from a microphone, but he didn't know that his sister was being punished by standing under the sun. Li Jinyan raised his head and looked at the Snowfield Brigade's Special Forces soldiers who had finished their descent. He didn't go over to check on Yi Qian's situation first. He immediately arranged for his soldiers to complete the mission. "Yes, sir." The water demons who received the order all glanced at Qing Yao from the corner of their eyes. Their expressions were slightly tense. The Snowfield Brigade's Q King was even colder than the Devil King. They were the same kind of people. They were swift and decisive, and they couldn't afford to make any mistakes. They were strict with themselves and their comrades. Even though it was tough to have such a captain, it was very reassuring. After making the arrangements, Li Jinyan strode towards his sister. He walked very quickly, and the soft green grass on both sides seemed to automatically make way for the cold man to walk past. Before they set off, Li Jinyan had changed into a dry camouflage combat uniform. After the emergency walk, his back was soaked with sweat. The camouflage uniform clung tightly to his muscular back, outlining his masculine sexiness. No matter how cold his expression was, it still made people yearn for him. He was about the same height as Xia Jinyuan, and with each step he took 2 shorter steps. In the blink of an eye, he was in front of Yi Qian. When he got closer, he saw that Yi Qian's face was slightly pale. Her lips were also covered with a faint layer of gray, and bean-sized sweat was dripping down her face. It was obvious that she wasn't feeling well, and he could smell the scent of blood on her. "How much longer do you want to stand for?" His thin lips were pursed into a straight line, and his entire body was as sharp as a sword as he asked in a low voice. Yi Qian did not answer. K7, who was standing on the cliff and preparing to descend, answered for Yi Qian, "Devil, Qing Yao can't speak. Pay attention to her feet. Don't disturb her." Upon hearing this, Li Jinyan immediately lowered his head to take a look. His originally cold face was now filled with anger. There was a small stone behind Qing Yao's heel and a small stone in front of her toes. She can't move. If her heel or toe touches the rock, she will have to stand again. K7 explained and descended with G3 and Z7. Below them, Xia Jinyuan, V8, T6, and Z7 had already dropped by half. Li Jinyin, whose heart was filled with resentment, pressed the corners of his mouth as low as it could go. There were dark clouds above his head, and thunder, lightning, and torrential rain could come at any time. Ruthless. The two words he spat out were like hailstones in June. They were cold, heavy, and intimidating. Yi Qian didn't even move her eyes. She stared at her brother, who was worried about her. Then, she gently blinked her eyes to indicate that she was fine. Li Jinyin, who received her gaze, nodded slightly. He took a deep breath, turned around, and strode away. This was Q King's punishment for a team member who made a mistake. No matter how much his heart ached for his sister, he had no right to interfere. Ruthless, ruthless. I really regret not going easy on him last night. It was too short. I should have given him a good beating. Yi Qian let out a sigh of relief. Her period was here. She was really afraid that her brother would ask her what was going on after smelling the blood. That would make her very embarrassed. K7 probably knew. It wasn't just a guess, it was a certainty. After placing the rock, he looked at her deeply. Chapter 2739. Yi Qian's heart crumbled when her comrades found out that she was on her period. She was so embarrassed that she couldn't face her comrades as usual. Even her brother was the same. Looking at Li Jinyin's back as he strode away, Yi Jian heaved a sigh of relief. She was actually glad that she had been punished instead of a normal activity. If she was punished, she wouldn't have to say anything. If she was punished, she could avoid the awkwardness and make it look as if nothing was wrong. As for her brother's dark expression when he left, Yi Qian prayed silently for Lieutenant Colonel Xia, who punished her. When the brother-in-law was angry, the brother-in-law was waiting to take action. Knowing that everyone had to complete the climb before Yi Jian could move his limbs, Li Jinyin, who wanted to finish the climb as soon as possible, leaped. Although he was tall and big, he was so agile that it was as if he was leaping onto roofs and vaulting over walls. It didn't take him long to catch up with the big mermaid and the others. Damn! Demon King, how are you so fast? Deil was so shocked that he stopped climbing. His eyes widened in disbelief as he looked at the Demon King, who caught up with him and then overtook him. So fast, so fast, so fast. He was so shocked that he couldn't help but exclaim. Now you know why the Demon King is so harsh on our training. It's because the difference in strength between us and him is too great. Deil stepped on a groove and grasped the foothold with both hands. He narrowed his eyes and looked up at the figure that had climbed in front of them in the blink of an eye. He said softly, Deil, let's make a bet. The Demon King's strength is probably more terrifying than what we've seen. Look at him now, it's enough to shock us. More terrifying than what we've seen? I don't think so. Don't we usually finish our training together? He's indeed more powerful than us, but not to the extent that we're afraid. Q King's strength is terrifying. He's like a bottomless pit. We can't see the bottom at all. He can do everything by sea, land, and air. He can be the king of special forces in any military unit. The eel answered skeptically. No, we must be wrong. The Demon King is definitely hiding part of his strength. Look at Q King, a powerful special forces soldier. The Demon King is not inferior to him at all. They are completely on par. After the Great Mermaid finished speaking, it gritted its teeth and climbed up again. Climbing barehanded and without any protection, facing a cliff that was tens of meters high, they couldn't help but feel a little scared. However, the Infernal King did not do so. Every time he climbed, he was extremely stable. He did not need to test the waters like the rest of them. After confirming that there were no problems, he began to raise his leg. The Demon King didn't even need to test the waters. His powerful arms climbed higher and higher, and the muscles on his slender and straight legs tightened. When he stepped on the ground, he would immediately raise his other leg, which was why he was so fast. When we return to the team, we can ask the Demon King why he hid a part of his strength. Now that the Demon King was almost 2 meters ahead of them in an instant, the big eel, who had been skeptical, finally believed it. It was easy to go up a mountain, but difficult to go down. It was the same for climbing. It took 1 hour and 42 minutes to go up Xia Jinyuan, and an hour and 40 minutes to go down 2/3 of the way. Soon, Li Jinyan, who had climbed up, was on the same line as him. With Z7 between them, Li Jinyan's gaze swept over the guy who punished his sister like an arrow. "Q King, you'd better look Qing Miao when you go down," Li Jinyan said coldly as he tightened one of the sturdy old vines growing on the cliff with one hand. "Her body is barely holding on. There's not much blood left. Just wait for her to faint." Chapter 2740. After Li Jinyan finished speaking, he pursed his lips even tighter and straighter. He knew in his heart that what he said was actually wrong. He shouldn't have said those words. He shouldn't have criticized Xia Jinyuan. But when he saw Xia Jinyuan and thought of his sister standing under the sun with little color on her face, he couldn't help it. There were times when his rationality would go on strike as well. "I have no right to interfere with your decision, but here I am." On the high cliff, Li Jinyan, who didn't have any protective measures, loosened his grip and pointed to his chest. He knew he shouldn't have criticized him, but at this moment, he didn't regret it. "I can't accept it. I can't accept it. I have personal feelings, very serious personal feelings. Q King, Qing Miao is your soldier. She was wrong to make a decision on her own last night, but why did she do it? You know very well in your heart. Q King, I respect your decision to punish her, but I can't accept it. I can't accept it in my heart." Xia Jinyuan wasn't surprised that Li Jinyan criticized him. Although they were the same kind of people, sometimes so calm that it was almost cruel when it came to Yi Qian, things like rationality were like bitten by a dog. He punished Qing Miao. This was the right decision, but at the same time, he also had his own intentions. The military intended to groom Qing Miao to be the leader of Pigeon's team. There were many things that had to be arranged in advance. Back then, when he became the leader of the entire Snowfield Brigade, how many people could understand the bitterness of it? He was parachuted in without any foundation and had to rely on himself for everything. He had to make the group of outstanding veterans obey him and listen to his arrangements. Every step was too difficult for him. After working so hard for so many times, he wanted to just throw away his responsibilities and leave. He wanted to shout, "I quit." How could he not do it? He couldn't. No matter how difficult and tiring it was, he had to grit his teeth and do it. Later, Han Zheng came in with him. With Han Zheng helping him and taking his orders as the most important, over time, G3 and the others were influenced and didn't resist as much. At that moment, he understood that as long as there was a comrade in the team who supported him and obeyed him, a lot of work would go exceptionally smoothly. He did not want Qing Miao to go through all the hardships and sufferings he had gone through. He did not know if Qing Miao would be able to persevere. Would she grit her teeth like him and shoulder the role of captain, no matter how tough and tiring it was? He didn't dare to gamble. He needed to take it one step at a time. Today's punishment was necessary, so why not change the meaning of the punishment? Xia Jinyuan wouldn't say these innermost thoughts and plans in front of his comrades. Z7, who was sandwiched in the middle, looked at the Demon King, then turned to look at Q King, who was gritting his teeth and not saying a word. He sighed in his heart. He saw the suppressed emotions in his good friend's eyes. They were like a surging tide. He was close to him and could clearly see that his good friend was clenching his teeth so hard that his cheeks were white. How could Q King not feel heartache when he punished Qing Miao? Demon King, Z7, Han Zheng, couldn't help but speak up for his good friend and his captain. Q King's heartache is no less than yours. He also used his fastest speed to complete the climb up and down. He also wants to shorten the time to end Qing Miao's punishment. In the team, Q King will punish everyone selflessly when we make a mistake. He has always treated everyone equally. Qing Miao, I know about your relationship with her. I also feel bad that she is being punished. But, Demon King, Qing Miao herself said that life and training should be separated. Chapter 2741. Han Zheng was probably the only one who understood the deeper meaning behind Xia Jinyuan's punishment of Qing Miao, so he couldn't help but speak up for his good friend. Right now, Qing Miao is just our comrade in arms, and Q King is her superior and subordinate. Other than that, she has no other relationship with us. If we decide the punishment based on closeness and estrangement, devil, this will cause Q King to lose his prestige and trust. He will also lose the position he should have in the hearts of the team members. Q King didn't do anything wrong. Since Qing Niao was in the wrong, she should accept the punishment. All of our team members feel sorry for Qing Niao, but we don't think Q King's decision is wrong. And devil, you see Qing Niao being punished now, but this is actually Xia Jinyuan, who had been silent all this while, stopped Han Zheng from continuing. He looked straight at the devil and said in a deep voice, "Devil, a mistake is a mistake. There's no escaping it." He stopped Han Zheng and didn't explain further after he finished speaking. Taking a deep look at the Demon King, he no longer stayed behind with his cold and handsome face. Instead, he walked down step by step. He didn't want to explain, and he couldn't. It didn't matter whether the Demon King understood or not. He was Little Fox's boyfriend and also the captain of the Greenbird team. She had done something wrong, and as the captain, he had no right to give her any face. Moreover, as the team leader, the devil also said that he respected his decision, but he couldn't accept it in his heart. It was right that he couldn't accept it in his heart. He was Little Fox's brother. How could he accept seeing his sister being punished when her body wasn't in good condition? He couldn't accept it emotionally. Forgive him for not being able to understand it, because he also couldn't accept it. One of them went up while the other went down. They were all trying to end Yi Qian's punishment as soon as possible. You're the team leader. I respect your decision, but that doesn't stop me from having opinions about you. You can call me emotional or impulsive, but Q King, I'm telling you personally that I already have a problem with you. Upon hearing this, Xia Jinyuan's cold and handsome face finally changed. He stared at his future brother-in-law for a few seconds, pursed his dry lips, and sighed. Devil, Qing Niao will not be an ordinary special forces soldier in the future. Please calm down and think about my intentions. I'm punishing Qing Niao with my status. Demon King, don't you think my heart aches? It's as painful as being pricked by a needle. The last sentence came out in a low growl. Yi Qian, who was facing the cliff, had already seen the confrontation between the two of them. She watched as the two silhouettes stayed there for 2 minutes and felt a little anxious. She was afraid that the two of them would start arguing. 2 minutes later, Xia Jinyuan was the first to descend. Yi Qian heaved a sigh of relief. Her brother wasn't in a good mood, so she could only ask Captain Xia to give in. The afternoon sun was so hot that the surrounding vegetation seemed to have lost its vitality. The trees and grass were wilting and drooping softly. The cicadas in the mountain were still patiently chirping cicadas, cicadas, over and over again. It was as if they were using up all their remaining energy. The sky was blue, and the mountains in the distance were green and lush. Yi Qian didn't move an inch to distract herself. She used the corner of her eyes to look at the beautiful scenery in the distance. Hold on a little longer. It'll be over soon. It'll be over soon. In her heart, Yi Qian kept telling herself that she just needed to hold on a little longer. Chapter 2742. K7, who had finally finished climbing, looked in the direction of Yi Qian. He paused for a moment and strode towards Xia Jinyuan. The team members who had finished climbing could start the next round of training. As the team leader, Xia Jinyuan also completed the training together with the team members. Xia Jinyuan had always been strict with himself when it came to training. The anti-exposure training was in progress. Everyone held a rifle in their hands. A piece of wood was hanging from the muzzle of the rifle. It wasn't a small caliber piece of wood, but a piece of wood that was as thick as an adult's arm and 20 centimeters long. Hanging a piece of wood from the muzzle of the rifle and a brick from Yi Qian's heels and toes were all based on the same principle. They had to keep their bodies motionless and prevent the wood from shaking. The wood was vertical and was only tied with a rope. As long as the soldier moved his body slightly, the rifle in his hand would move as well. The vertical wood would shake, and shaking meant failure. Compared to Yi Qian's anti-exposure training, their training was actually more difficult. When K7 saw the two pieces of wood hanging from the muzzle of Xia Jinyuan's rifle, His expression changed slightly. Q King was using his own method to be punished together with Qing Yao. The Demon King's heart ached for Qing Yao, but Q King's heart ached even more. Qing Yao's period is here. When it's over, go and take care of her. K7 tied a rope around the muzzle of his rifle and said calmly, "The Demon King is angry because he knows that Qing Yao's period is here." Qing Yao's period is here? Xia Jinyuan, who didn't know, narrowed his eyes. He didn't even smell blood on her when he was carrying her. When I was putting the rock in her body, I smelled a very faint scent of blood. When you were carrying her, her period wasn't here yet. The Demon King must know. They were all soldiers who had blood on their hands and were especially sensitive to the smell of blood. The smell of blood on Qing Yao's body could not be concealed from everyone. It will take at least 2.5 hours for the Demon King and the others to finish. Q King has already been Qing Yao for more than 4 hours. Another 2.5 hours. Almost 7 hours of exposure to the sun. She will indeed faint. Originally, they thought that it would be over in 4.5 to 5 hours, but the reality was wrong. It was even harder to climb to the top, which seriously delayed their time. 7 hours of exposure to the sun. The longest time they had been exposed to the sun was only 4 hours. The weather in the mountains was good, and the temperature was lower than outside. An extra hour of exposure to the sun was good, except for the physical exhaustion. But adding another 2 hours was unacceptable. Xia Jinyuan said, "Let's go and check on Qing Yao's condition. We'll decide based on the situation." He did not immediately suspend Yi Qian's punishment. He nodded, put the rifle on his back, and strode towards Yi Qian. Xia Jinyuan, who was waiting for K7 to come back, couldn't calm down. Qing Yao's period was not that painful, but she would feel slightly uncomfortable on the first day. Last night, she was drenched in the rain and had to run through the night. No matter how strong her body was, the arrival of her period would destroy her strong heart. "I hope she's fine. I hope she's fine." K7 was already asking Yi Qian, "Qing Yao, I'm the team's doctor. My questions are not inappropriate, so you don't have to feel awkward. I want to know how long can you last?" K7 knew that she was shy, so he did not directly ask Yi Qian if her period came. Instead, he asked in a different way. Chapter 2743. Even so, Yi Qian could feel waves of blood rushing to her head. She had been standing still for more than 4 hours. She was close to her limit of 5 hours. Her whole body was so stiff that it felt like she was covered in a layer of plaster. She couldn't move her body, and even speaking took a lot of effort. "I can't stand for long. The longest I've been exposed to was 5 hours, but the temperature was much higher than this. There's a cool breeze now, so it might be longer than 5 hours. After speaking, Yi Qian realized that her voice was extremely hoarse. It was as if someone had sprinkled a handful of salt on it. Her throat was so dry that it itched. K7 glanced at her lower body. He couldn't see any blood stains. "Okay, I got it." K7 didn't say much. He retracted his gaze and returned to Xia Jinyuan's side. His pale face darkened as he said in a low voice, "Her limit is 5 hours. Now that the temperature is suitable, she can last another hour at most." An hour later, Li Jinyin led the water ghosts back to the surface. G3 stood opposite Xia Jinyuan, facing Yi Qian. He kept his gaze on Yi Qian without blinking. He wanted to see if there was anything wrong with Yi Qian. He was standing there because Xia Jinyuan had arranged for him to do so. Xia Jinyuan couldn't face Yi Qian directly. He was worried that he wouldn't be ruthless enough and end up being unfair. In the end, he picked G3 and asked him to keep an eye on Yi Qian. When Yi Qian's body swayed slightly, G3's expression suddenly tensed up. He said in a low voice, "Q King." Before he could finish, Xia Jinyuan threw the rifle in his hand over his shoulder, turned around, and ran towards Yi Qian. His departure made his comrades in the snowfield brigade sigh in relief. This was the punishment for stopping Qing Yao in the past. 5.5 hours. Qing Yao had been standing there for a whole 5.5 hours. Fortunately, the temperature in the mountains wasn't high, and the cool breeze brushing against his face swept away some of his fatigue. Standing for 5.5 hours, he gritted his teeth and endured it. Yi Qian was already at his limit. Blood gushed out of his lower body. Yi Qian, who had been clenching his teeth, saw the man running towards him. Before he could even smile, he felt his vision darken. He didn't have time to react, nor did he have time to save himself. His stiff body fell forward. Yi Qian didn't feel anything, nor did he think about how painful the fall would be. His vision went black, and all the joints in his body lost their function as he fell to the ground in a daze. Yi Qian, who had fainted, didn't know that she wasn't lying in the bushes. Instead, she was in the arms of Xia Jinyuan, who was sprinting toward her. Qing Yao, Xia Jinyuan, whose eyes were trembling, hugged the fainted Yi Qian. Seeing that she was clenching her teeth and closing her eyes, Xia Jinyuan carried Yi Qian in his arms and ran towards K7. He didn't shout, nor did he disturb the devil who was still in the midst of his climbing training. His eyes were filled with anger, and the veins on his arms were bulging. He ran towards K7 at lightning speed. K7 was shocked by the ferocity of the shadow that was running behind him. It was as if a tiger was about to pounce on him. He immediately turned around, and, at the same time, he subconsciously aimed the gun that was tied to the rope in front of him. When he saw that the person running towards him wasn't a tiger, he quickly put away his gun. Just as Xia Jinyuan's chest was about to hit the muzzle of the gun, he threw the gun onto his shoulder. Chapter 2744. The Special Forces soldiers who were undergoing anti-exposure training were all trying their best to control their bodies. They forced themselves to focus and not turn around. It was hard for them to endure, and the wooden planks were about to shake. Stay calm. With K7 and Q King taking care of her, Qing Yao will be fine. G3 reminded his comrades. He could see everything in front of him, so he could update his comrades on the latest situation. She fainted. K7 is taking care of her. It shouldn't be a big problem. Stand still. It was indeed not a big problem. The main problem was that her body had reached its limit. Plus, her period was a bit turbulent, so her blood flow was not regulated. She had been standing for too long without any rest and movement, so she fainted. Her heartbeat was normal, but her pulse was a bit unstable. K7 knelt on the ground to check and found out that Qing Yao was fine. Only then did he realize that his back was covered in a layer of cold sweat. The fainted Yi Qian's face was so pale that it was almost translucent. Her skin was fair to begin with, and now that it was translucent, he could see the fine green veins clearly. When K7 saw this for the first time, his heart skipped a beat. He had never seen Yi Qian in such a weak state. She was so weak that her slender neck looked like it could break at any moment. Her entire body was weak and fragile. There was no vitality in her at all. She was so pale that it made one's heart sink. She's fine. She's exhausted and needs to rest. Take her to take care of the blood on her body. There are feminine products in her hygiene bag. Q King, you need to do 2 things. K7 did not feel awkward at all. He calmly ordered, change her clothes and change her into feminine products. There's iron solution and red brine syrup in the hygiene bag. These are specially prepared for the female soldiers in the military. Give her the red syrup after you're done. Xia Jinyuan did not feel awkward at all. He listened carefully and even nodded solemnly. I'll take her to the forest now. Don't put on all her clothes. Give her some ventilation and massage her joints. It's not good to stand for too long. It was rare for K7 to say so much without panting. Actually, it was obvious that K7 was panicking. How could he not be? At this moment, even Yi Qian's lips were deathly pale, without a trace of life. Xia Jinyuan picked up Yi Qian again with a gloomy face. Stuff the sanitary bag in her backpack into my clothes. Quick! Even though he knew that Yi Qian's fainting was partly due to exhaustion and partly due to her period, Xia Jinyuan's heart was still in turmoil. He was in so much pain that his voice was hoarse, and it took him a lot of effort to speak. Initially, when the Devil King said that she might faint, his heart had already skipped a beat. Later, when K7 said the same thing, He immediately had G3 stand facing Yi Qian so that he could discover the problem in time. He didn't dare to face her. He was afraid that every second he looked at her, the decision he made would change every second. Military orders couldn't be changed overnight. Not only would it not convince the public, it would also ignore military rules and regulations. Mistakes must be investigated, and mistakes must be punished. It was written clearly in the rules of the Shuiyu Brigade, and he would never leave the mistakes he made in training until the next day. If he could punish her on the day, he had to do it today. There was no such thing as the next day or delay. Now that she had really fainted in his arms, he did not regret it. He only felt heartache. He felt so heartache that his heart clenched and was ruthlessly crushed. She was a female soldier. There were too many things that she was at a disadvantage in, including training. K7 took out the medical bag and stuffed it into his clothes. K7 paused and asked him, "Do you know how to use it?" Chapter 2745. Yes, Xia Jinyuan answered and signaled K7 to put Yi Qian's backpack on his shoulder. Without stopping, the young lieutenant colonel ran towards the forest with the backpack on one shoulder and Yi Qian in his arms. Behind him, K7 put away his surprised expression. Q King said he studied the usage of female products. Why did it sound so weird to him? Which man would have the time to study the usage of feminine products? On the cliff, Li Jinyan didn't notice that Yi Qian had fainted. All his focus was on his hands and feet. After more than 2 hours of training, he had calmed down. As the captain, Q King didn't do anything wrong. Last night, he clearly told himself that there was no girlfriend on the training ground, only Qing Yao. If it was someone else who was punished today, he wouldn't be angry, and he wouldn't have lost his composure and asked Xia Jinyuan for an explanation. If it was someone else, he would only praise Q King for his iron fist. "Devil, you're too fast. Watch your step." As Li Jinyan's speed increased, the 3 water demons who started climbing 10 minutes before him hurriedly reminded him. It was too fast, so fast that it made their hearts jump. "Climbing is my strength," Li Jinyan calmly reminded his comrade. His long, slender legs stepped down again, stepping on a protruding rock covered in moss. After stepping firmly on it, he let go of the other one. Just like that, he cautiously and without losing speed, he returned downwards. Climbing with bare hands was a skill that every Special Forces soldier had to learn. Li Jinyan loved rock climbing since he was young, so he trained with Xia Jinyuan. In the first rock climbing competition, he won completely. When the water ghosts heard his nonchalant explanation, they all cursed in their hearts. They obviously knew that climbing was the devil's strength, but they didn't know it was this good. Was it really like what the Great Mermaid said? Was the devil actually hiding part of his strength? Was it because he didn't want them to be shocked and embarrassed? Li Jinyan did not have the time to guess what his comrades were thinking. He wanted to return to the surface as soon as possible to see how his sister was doing. As for Xia Jinyuan, he wanted to marry his sister? Not so easy. You don't have to worry about me. Just watch your feet. Qing Yao, it's up to you to end the punishment early. Li Jinyan, who had taken a few more steps down, raised his head. His usually cold eyes were as calm as a mirror. She's a female soldier. Occasionally, she needs the male soldiers to take care of her. The water ghosts also couldn't bear to see Yi Qian being punished for too long. When they brushed shoulders with the wolves of the Snowfield Brigade, they could clearly feel the oppressive aura emanating from these wolves. They didn't even look at them out of the corner of their eyes and just kept walking down. They were all very worried about Qing Yao. They were all doing their best to help Qing Yao and the punishment. The Great Mermaid said softly, "I have to say that Q King's punishment is very skillful. Comrades share weal and woe and help each other. If you are in trouble, I will support you. If you are in danger, I will cover you. In this way, we will support each other and help each other through the flames of war and smoke. We will protect each other's lives time and time again." Qing Yao's punishment will also improve the friendship between her and the male soldiers. Li Jinyan was influenced by his own emotions and really didn't think in this direction. When he heard this, his body suddenly stiffened. Xia Jinyuan's words suddenly flashed through his mind. He said that Qing Niao's future path will not be just an ordinary special forces soldier. At that time, he was possessed and worried that his sister would be punished. Even if he calmed down, he didn't think too much about it. Chapter 2746. But now, the words of the big mermaid had enlightened him and made him think deeper about it. Although the Snowfield Brigade was a special forces unit, it was actually divided into two categories. The team members who used letters and numbers as code names were in charge of surprise attacks and focused on accepting overseas missions. On the other hand, the team members who used Chinese code names were in charge of surprise attacks and were responsible for more domestic missions. When the two teams were combined, they could attack and defend. On the other hand, Q King was the king of the surprise attack team. The king of the surprise attack team had yet to appear. Could it be that the military wanted to groom his sister to become the king of the surprise attack team of the Snowfield Brigade? As this thought flashed through his mind, many things made sense. Many things could be explained clearly. Xia Jinyuan's intention was to let his sister build trust with the team members who used Chinese code names in advance so that they could share weal and woe together. Only in this way, when his sister became the king of the team members who used Chinese code names one day, it wouldn't be considered as a sudden arrival and would be quickly accepted by her comrades in all aspects. When he thought of this, Li Jinyan's heart was filled with all sorts of feelings, and he felt extremely upset. Q King was able to plan so far and think so carefully for his sister. Compared to him, her brother, he knew better how to enter his sister's heart. 7 years. How many 7 years were there in a person's life? In order to be with his sister forever, Q King had silently waited for 7 years. He had sacrificed 7 years and had never changed. He had only persevered. Li Jinyan, who was still as cold as ice a second ago, laughed softly at this moment. His laughter was a little jerky, but also a little joyful. This made the great mermaid and the great eel above feel confused. Lieutenant Colonel Xia, who was sweating profusely from helping Yi Qian change his clothes, had no idea that his future brother-in-law was going through a mental cleansing. He was extremely busy at the moment. He was so anxious and busy that he was sweating profusely. His eyes were shooting daggers. He never knew that dressing his girlfriend was such a big challenge. After finding a shady spot, Xia Jinyuan took out the anti-humidity mat from his backpack and laid it on the ground. He then placed Yi Qian, who seemed to be asleep, on top of the mat. When his slender fingers were about to unbutton it, Xia Jinyuan looked at Yi Qian's pale face and said softly, "Little fox, I'm sorry to offend you in broad daylight. I'm a bastard. I hit and scolded you. I'm a violent bastard. When you wake up, you can hit and scold me. Don't blame me in your heart. It's not that easy to be a captain. I have to be fair and just. You're my girlfriend and my comrade. I'm your boyfriend and your captain. I'm sorry, my baby. I can't give you special treatment." As he spoke, he began to undress Yi Qian. Due to the weather, Yi Qian only wore a camouflage combat uniform and a long, dark green t-shirt. She also wore a uniform underwear that allowed her to circulate her inner strength. Xia Jinyuan took off her combat uniform first. Then, he began to unbuckle her belt. Xia Jinyuan, who was busy unbuckling her belt, didn't notice that Yi Qian's fingers were gently flicking at her sides. Even her long, thick eyelashes were trembling. Click! After a slight sound, the belt was unbuckled. Xia Jinyuan, who had pursed his lips, unbuttoned his pants and pulled down the zipper. The moment he took off his pants, the strong smell of blood rushed into his nose. He saw a large patch of blood on the crotch of his pants. The moment he saw the blood, Xia Jinyuan's pupils constricted fiercely. There was so much blood. Chapter 2747. Where her pants were taken off, a cool breeze blew against her skin. Yi Qian, who was in a coma, regained consciousness. She had regained consciousness when the belt around her waist was unbuckled. Now that her pants were taken off, she became even more conscious. Someone was taking off her pants. Someone was taking off her pants. No, no, no. The scene before her death in her previous life suddenly appeared in her mind. She fell to the ground weakly. The dirty and ugly thing's eyes made her want to vomit. No, no, no. Her mind was still filled with the scenes from her previous life before she died. The disgusting manager, his vicious words, his disgusting gaze, his shameless actions. She was pushed onto the table by him, his filthy hands touching her body, and she fought back and finally escaped. Finally, she grabbed a fountain pen without a cap and stabbed it into the ugly thing's arm. When he hit her head and made her bleed, she grabbed a pair of scissors and stabbed it into the person's chest. Everything was over. She was not violated. The person made a strange sound in his throat and finally fell to the ground with a loud thud. The moment her pants were taken off below her knees, Yi Jian, who was in a coma, suddenly opened her eyes. The coldness in her lower body made her eyes almost pop out of her head. Without thinking much, she raised her feet and resisted with the fiercest posture. Xia Jinyuan, who was focused on taking off her pants, didn't pay attention to her upper body. He didn't expect Yi Qian to suddenly wake up and kick him without saying a word. Xia Jinyuan, who was caught off guard, was kicked in the shoulder. The force of the kick was so strong that he fell a few meters away. Yi Qian used too much force, and a sudden cramping pain came from her abdomen. It was so painful that her vision turned black and she almost fainted. She wanted to move her body again, but she realized that her whole body was so sore that she couldn't muster any strength. She subconsciously screamed at the top of her lungs, "Captain Xia, I'm here, I'm here." Xia Jinyuan, who had been kicked a few meters away, heard the sorrowful roar. He was so shocked that he lost his composure like never before. He rolled and crawled over. I'm here, I'm here. Yi Qian, I'm here, I'm here." Hugging her tightly, Xia Jinyuan gave Yi Qian the greatest sense of security. "I'm here, baby, I'm here. I'm right here. I was the one who changed your pants just now. It wasn't anyone else. It wasn't anyone else. It was me, it was me." Xia Jinyuan, who was hugging her, was heartbroken. His eyes were bloodshot. His lover, his baby. Her little face was full of fear, and her bright black eyes were gray. It was as if her whole world had been destroyed and could never be restored. Her slender body trembled again and again. Not only was there fear on her face, her entire body was exuding an aura of despair. How could this be? How could this be? Something was wrong, very wrong. His lover must have experienced something that he didn't know about. This kind of thing caused permanent damage to her body and mind. It was engraved into her bones and would accompany her for the rest of her life. Xia Jinyuan couldn't care less anymore. He lowered his head and kissed Yi Qian's trembling lips. "I'm right here. Don't be afraid, don't be afraid. I've always been here." He said it over and over again, kissing her lips over and over again. "There's no one else, just me. Look at me, touch me. There's only me, Xia Jinyuan. There's no one else, understand? No one else." Chapter 2748. Not only did he hug her tightly, but Xia Jinyuan also pulled Yi Jian into his arms. She was nestled in his arms like a baby. He hugged her tightly with one arm and held Yi Jian's right hand tightly with the other hand. Their fingers were intertwined and held tightly. "You're on your period and your pants are all wet with blood. I need to change your pants for you. Little fox, there's no one else but me, Xia Jinyuan. With me here, you don't have to be afraid of anything. Leave everything to me. Don't worry, I'm here." He kissed her with every word he said. His arm hugging her tightly was giving Yi Qian peace of mind. He was telling Yi Qian that the man she loved the most, the man she trusted the most, was by her side, protecting her. The memories that she didn't want to recall the most in her previous life rushed out like a flood, but they were slowly closed by his gentle and strong embrace. Yi Jian's dilated pupils slowly returned to normal, and the despair that came from her bones gradually dissipated. "Captain Xia, Captain Xia." Yi Qian murmured a few words in a low voice. She suddenly took the initiative and kissed the man who gave her peace of mind a little fiercely. His embrace, his kiss. She wanted everything about him. She wanted everything. She wanted to make him hers, take him for her own, make him her own, and not let anyone see or peek at him. This man who walked into her heart like a ray of light, dispelled the haze of her previous life, and brought her gentleness in this life. He was hers. His entire life was hers. Yi Qian was so passionate that Xia Jinyuan retreated. She tore open his clothes and frantically stroked his body like a fish. She was too passionate, too abnormal. Her abnormal passion made Xia Jinyuan calm down. He was even more certain that something was wrong with Yi Qian. What exactly happened to make her so scared? Taking off her pants. It wasn't that they hadn't done it before. They had even done it twice at the hotel. At that time, she was as shy as a budding flower, allowing him to do whatever he wanted without any abnormalities. They had both taken off their pants today, so why was there such a big reaction? No. Although they were both taking off their pants, there was a big difference. One was done when she was awake, and the other was done when she was unconscious. In other words, the key to the abnormality was the coma. Could it be that someone had made the little fox unconscious and wanted to do something bad to her? As this possibility flashed through his mind, Xia Jinyuan, who was kissing her with his head lowered, suddenly had a fierce look in his eyes. There was a murderous look deep in his eyes. Xiao Zi. This enthusiasm was simply too much. She was too passionate, too abnormal. Even if it made him excited, he couldn't think of anything else. Instead, it made him even angrier. Her abnormal passion and eagerness to seek protection made him completely certain that his lover must have been hurt. It's all in the past, baby. I'm here with you now. Don't be afraid. It's all in the past. The steady voice spoke slowly, trying to dispel the haze in her heart. There was the sound of running footsteps in front of them. Someone shouted, "Qing Yao, what happened to Q King?" The way she called out Captain Xia just now was so sorrowful that it made all her comrades' hearts sink. They were all shocked by the despair in her voice. Without thinking about anything else, they threw their rifles over their shoulders, grabbed a piece of wood hanging by a rope, and rushed into the forest. They thought that something had happened to their captain. "Stop right there. Don't come in," Xia Jinyuan shouted as he held down Yi Qian's restless hand with one hand. Chapter 2749. His comrades, who were rushing over, slammed on the brakes. They were going too fast and were suddenly stopped, so the inertia caused them to stumble forward 2 steps. "Q King, what happened over there?" G3 raised his hand and stopped his comrades behind him from moving forward. He stood at the edge and looked into the forest where no one could be seen clearly. "Do you need us to come over?" "No need. Everyone retreat." Xia Jinyuan's voice was suppressed and low. "Everyone retreat. No one is allowed to enter without my permission." K7 seemed to have thought of something and was the first to turn and leave. Qing Yao fainted and Q King changed her pants. Then, Qing Yao woke up and thought she was being molested. She subconsciously asked for help from her most trusted Captain Xia. The whole process was more or less like that. "We're not going in. Let's guard here. If anything happens, we can rush over directly," V8 said worriedly. K7, who had already walked a few steps away, heard this and had no choice but to stop. He turned around helplessly. "Q King clearly told us to retreat. What's the point of guarding here?" "That's right." He roared at them to go back. Even if something happened, Q King's ability would be able to solve it. They were just overly worried. "Then what about Qing Yao? Is she okay? Is Qing Yao okay? Isn't there Q King by her side? Hey, do you have a one-track mind? Do you only know how to walk straight and not turn around? No wonder you're still single. Hey, let's talk about the facts. Don't make personal attacks." Bachelor V8 protested seriously. In exchange, his comrades laughed at him mercilessly. In the forest, Xia Jinyuan, who felt something was wrong after being touched by Yi Qian, pulled hard. Without any hesitation, he pulled Yi Qian's hand out of his pants. Although the abnormal enthusiasm made his body react honestly, he firmly rejected it in his heart. It was not the right time. The timing was even worse. Calm down, Yi Qian. It's okay. It's all in the past. Calm down. After stopping his comrades, Xiao Jinyuan stopped kissing Yi Qian, who had lost control of her emotions. He simply hugged her slowly and steadily and said, "Look at me. Look at me. Tell me, who are you looking at? Who's hugging you?" The atmosphere of despair had dissipated. Yi Qian, who was kissed until her lips were bright red, looked up and stared fixedly at the handsome face in front of her who was worried for her. She raised her hand and gently and whispered, "I know who's captain. It's Captain Xia who split the darkness like the light and pulled me out of the abyss. No one else hugged me. It was Captain Xia who hugged me. I can recognize him. He was like a man of light, bringing hope and vitality. How could she not recognize him?" Xia Jinyuan saw a faint smile on her pale face. Her dilated eyes were focused. He lowered his head again and kissed her forehead tenderly with his warm and sexy lips. "Yes, I'm hugging you. I'm by your side. Don't be afraid, baby. I'm here for you. Yes, you're here, Captain Xia. I'm at ease with you by my side." At this moment, Yi Qian was curled up in the man's arms like a kitten. Her slender body was soft, and she relied wholeheartedly on the man who was hugging her. With Captain Xia by her side, she was really at ease. Xiao Jinyuan kept kissing her, from her forehead to the tip of her nose, to her cheeks, and then to her delicate lips. He kissed her again and again gently. He realized that this was the only way to calm down her fluctuating emotions bit by bit. Chapter 2750. Xiao Jinyuan's kiss was like Yi Qian's salvation. Her fluttering heart slowly came to a stop, and finally stopped at the harbor that belonged to her. Let bygones be bygones. No matter how great the damage was, it's history now. Yi Qian, you have to remember that you're a powerful Special Forces soldier. You're a Special Forces soldier who survived through the flames of war. You're not even afraid of death, so why are you afraid of being hurt? No matter how deep the damage is, it should be forgotten with time. Comparing your own life to a single injury, which is more important. Qing Miao, you're a soldier with a mission. You have to be strong. You have to be strong like an iron wall. You have to be strong like a sword. Only in this way can you save more lives and do more meaningful things. Only in this way can you live up to your military uniform. Xiao Jinyuan didn't ask what Yi Qian had experienced in the past that left such a deep wound in her heart. He knew the girl he loved too well. She could endure things, but she could also keep them to herself. If she didn't want to talk about it, it would only make her shrink back. The only way was to wait for her to bring it up herself. He didn't want her to resist. He only hoped that she would let nature take its course. Yi Qian, who was suffering from a nightmare, was at a loss. She felt a comforting embrace that gradually brought her back to her senses. She gradually regained her rationality and calmness that she had lost. Yi Qian stroked the worried face of his handsome face and said softly, "Captain Xia, do you believe that people have a past life? Do you believe it?" In her past life, she wasn't a powerful Special Forces soldier. In her past life, she was just an ordinary girl who was forced to break her back by Yi Zhifan's family. She had suffered all the sufferings of the world, tasted all the sorrows of the world, tasted all the coldness and warmth of the world. In the end, she had died in the most cowardly way, a dignified death that she had fought her entire life for. She had perished together with the thing that had harmed her. People said that she was strong, fearless, and brave. In her past life, she probably only found some similarities with herself in this life because she perished together with the bad guys. The difference between the past life and the present was like heaven and earth. Captain Xiao was right. The damage was already in the past. No matter how great the damage was, it had already become history. Yi Zhifan had received his retribution. Sun Ying was receiving her retribution, and Sun Dongqing had fallen from her position as an official's wife into the mud. Those who had bullied her, betrayed her, and humiliated her had been dealt with. Since her inner demons had mostly dissipated, why did she still care about her final encounter before her death? Xia Jinyuan was an atheist. He didn't believe in such things as past and present lives. But Yi Qian's serious question made him pause for a while, and then he said softly, Huang Liang's dream, Zhuang Sheng's dream of butterflies. It's all about the past and present life. There are too many things in this world that we don't know, too many mysteries that exist that we can't solve. Reality and illusion, life and death, all of it is within our thoughts. If people really do have past and present lives, if you believe it, I will too. They all say that I had accumulated good fortune in my past life to have you. That means that I must have been a very, very good person in my past life to have you in this life. Little fox, you in your past life, you in this life, you now, and you when you speak. Can you differentiate between reality and illusion? It's very difficult. We're alive now, which is our past life, or maybe our present life. It's like a dream or an illusion. It doesn't matter if you believe in the past or present life, or if you don't. I only believe that you are the love of my life, the woman that I want to be with for the rest of my life. Chapter 2751. Whether it was the previous life or this life, there was no need to think so much. Just think about who you love, who you are thinking about, and who you are holding hands with. Yi Qian stared blankly at the man who was talking to her. She was still in a daze and asked in confusion, You mean to say that the previous life was actually a dream? I dreamt that I lived a lifetime in a dream and mistook the dream for the previous life? Yes. You can treat the so-called previous life as a dream. Even if you dreamt that you had lived a lifetime, it was still just a dream. When you wake up from the dream, you will also wake up. As you wake up, the joys and sorrows in the dream are no longer important. The pain in the dream is even less important. Why would there be sudden enlightenment, sudden awakening, and a night of understanding? Actually, it's similar to a golden beam dream and Zhuang Sheng's dream of a butterfly. Some people get inspired in their dreams and suddenly work hard. This is not unheard of. Xia Jinyuan was actually a little confused as to why Yi Qian would mention the previous life. However, based on his intuition and his understanding of Yi Qian, he vaguely felt that something was wrong with Yi Qian just now. It had something to do with the previous life she mentioned. In the dream, did his lover dream that she was living a miserable life? Did she dream that her life ended miserably? That was also a possibility. After all, when little Fox was young, she had lived under Sun Dongqing's abuse. She had also been bullied by Sun Ying. She had been surrounded by a pack of wolves and so-called relatives who wished for her to live a miserable life. It was not impossible for her to have spent the rest of her life under stress. Yi Qian was extremely shocked. A sudden awakening, a night of understanding. Actually, it's similar to Huang Liang's dream and Zhuang Sheng's dream of a butterfly. Some people get inspired in their dreams and suddenly work hard. This is not something that has never happened before. Could it be that my so-called previous life was really a dream? Was it really a dream? No, it was not a dream. How could a dream be so real? It cannot be a dream. It was definitely not a dream. But Captain Xia didn't believe it. He didn't believe in past and present lives. He only believed in Huang Liang's dream. Her impulse to tell the truth gradually cooled down. Her head, which was so hot that it was as if it had been filled with paste, gradually regained her rationality. She wanted to confess to Captain Xia, but if he didn't believe her, she would really have to keep it as a permanent secret in her heart. Yi Qian gently closed his eyes. Deep in his heart, he let out a long sigh. Just let her continue to hide her secret. Meanwhile, Xia Jinyuan watched as Yi Qian closed her eyes. The helpless look on her face, which resembled that of an abandoned child, gradually disappeared as she closed her eyes. Even her complexion regained some color. He glanced at her legs, lowered his head, and kissed the tip of her nose. He said gently, If you really believe me, after our training is over, I'll accompany you to look for it during the holidays. Now, you have to lie down properly and take off your dirty pants to change into clean ones. If you don't have the strength, I'll change it for you. If you have the strength, I'll step back and you can change it yourself. The air suddenly froze, and Yi Qian's face seemed to be congested with blood. With a bang, it was so red that it was as if it was on fire. Just now, she suddenly recalled the last scene of her previous life, because she clearly felt someone taking off her pants. That's right. Captain Xia also said that he was the one taking off her pants. He was the one taking off her pants. Chapter 2752. Yi Jian only felt that all the blood in her body rushed to the top of her head. It rushed until her face and ears turned red, and she felt dizzy. One could imagine the embarrassment in her heart. She wished she could dig a hole and bury herself directly. Now that her mind was clear, her rationality and calmness returned to her. However, Yi Qian felt that it would be better to continue being muddle-headed and let Captain Xia do whatever he wanted. She was muddle-headed anyway. Now that she was clear-headed, she felt so embarrassed that she wanted to faint again. Her face was as red as a blooming hibiscus, and her eyes were as clear as a mountain stream in winter. They were so touching that it tugged at one's heartstrings. She pursed her red lips awkwardly and didn't dare to look at Xia Jinyuan. Her gaze was evasive. Seeing this, Xia Jinyuan couldn't help but curl up his lips, but he quickly suppressed it. His voice was low and sexy as he asked her, "Does your stomach hurt a lot? You've been standing for 5.5 hours. Qing Miao, your endurance is amazing. You surprised everyone and impressed us all." Yi Qian didn't have any symptoms of dysmenorrhea, but because she was drenched in the rain last night, her lower abdomen felt sore and swollen. It was indeed uncomfortable. After he mentioned it, Yi Qian, who was so embarrassed that she wanted to dig a hole, subconsciously felt a pain in her lower abdomen. A sudden, twisting pain came and caught her off guard, causing her to frown. Xia Jinyuan also frowned because of her frown. He placed his warm hand on her lower abdomen and said, "I've read a female physiology book. It says that before and after your period, women shouldn't be drenched in the rain and eat raw and cold food. And you who often go through wind and rain and eat raw and cold food with us, the cold must have entered your body long ago." His deep voice sounded very serious as he gently caressed Yi Qian's lower abdomen with his large hand, using the warmth of his palm to dispel the discomfort in Yi Qian's lower abdomen. No, Captain Xia, you don't need to know so much. The amount of information was too much, and the momentum was too fierce. So much so that a thin-skinned person like Yi Qian couldn't handle it all. He even stuttered when he spoke. She even read books on female physiology and knew about menstruation. Someone should hit her and make her faint. Colonel Xia, on the other hand, was unperturbed. "It's good to know a little. I remember that your period is 2 days late. Why did it come early today? Don't you feel it yourself? The book says that girls will feel something before their period comes, so they can prepare in advance. You didn't prepare at all, and I didn't expect it either." If he knew, the punishment would not be delayed, but it would be done in a different way. Yi Jian felt as if she was being roasted over and over again on a fire rack. Her body was burning hot, and her entire body was burning red. I can either bring it forward 2 days or push it back. It's not very accurate. As Yi Qian stammered, he felt like biting his tongue to commit suicide. He was going crazy. Why did she have to answer? He could have chosen not to answer. He could have chosen to remain silent and refuse. You still need to be more careful in the future. You're still young, so you don't feel it. When you get older, the root of your illness will come out. Xia Jinyuan, who was focused on gently rubbing Yi Qian's lower abdomen, didn't even raise his head to look at Yi Qian. He knew that Yi Qian must be so embarrassed that she didn't know where to look. Her skin was too thin. Sometimes, even a kiss would make her blush for a long time. Now that they were talking about a girl's private matters, he was afraid that she would be so embarrassed that she would close her eyes. Out of sight, out of mind. Chapter 2753. Xia Jinyuan knew Yi Qian well. She was so embarrassed that Yi Qian really closed her eyes. She didn't want to make eye contact with him for even half a second. "Raise your arms and bend your legs." See if your joints are still stiff. Don't force it, or you'll strain your joints and ligaments. If you stand still for 5.5 hours, your joints won't be able to move and your muscles won't be supplied with blood. It will cause a series of temporary side effects, such as limb disharmony. Under normal circumstances, when we complete anti-exposure training, you support me and I'll support you. We have to walk at least 500 meters back and forth to move our joints before we can rest. You fainted and didn't get to move at all. Now that you're in my arms, you won't even get to move. Come, bend your left knee. Let me see. Yi Qian's attention wasn't on this at all. She was so embarrassed that she just wanted to escape. She closed her eyes and said, "Put me down. I'll move on my own. You don't stay by my side. I'll handle it myself. Please, hurry up and leave." If the two of them stayed any longer, she felt so embarrassed that she wouldn't be able to face anyone. Also, K7 knew that she was on her period. K7 also knew that she was on her period. Then, Captain Xia carried the unconscious her into the forest to change her pants. K7 was the team's military doctor. Thinking that K7 might know that Xia Jinyuan changed her pants, Yi Qian was so embarrassed that she wanted to cry. She was too embarrassed to face anyone. She was too embarrassed to face anyone. If she fainted, Captain Xia would definitely let K7 check on her first. As for taking off her pants, K7 would definitely do it. Yes. Can. Say. Out. Come. Yi Qian felt like she had lost all hope. Did they know that? On my period? She even asked until she felt like her heart was dead. Xia Jinyuan pondered for a moment and answered honestly. Basically, you have the smell of blood on you, and you're not injured. I carried you in and changed into a combat uniform later. With their terrifying logic, I'm afraid they've already figured it out by now. Also, before you woke up, I stopped them from coming over. I'm afraid that they also know that I changed your pants. Yi Qian wanted to go home. He didn't want to train with his terrifying comrades at all. Xia Jinyuan couldn't help but laugh when he saw the look of despair on her face. We're all transparent to each other. We don't ask each other much about our family matters. We don't even ask each other about our personal matters in the army, whether we slept with our wives or girlfriends during the holidays, what we did, how many times we did it, and how long we did it each time. Even these things aren't secrets. Of course, I didn't say it personally. It was all guesswork. However, everyone's IQ was above average. Even if they were to guess, they would not be too far off from the mark. After you came, fortunately, you were a female soldier and didn't act too presumptuously. But in the future, you definitely won't let me off. In the future, if you hear any private matters between the two of us, just pretend that you didn't hear it. Ignore it and let me handle it. Thanks to the awkwardness of this matter, Yi Qian was able to forget all the pain from his previous life. He no longer thought about whether it was a dream or reality. Yi Qian was so embarrassed that he felt like his heart had died. He raised his trembling hand and pointed outside with a trembling finger. Captain Xia, please, leave immediately. I'll change my pants myself. I'll change them myself. Chapter 2754. Yi Qian said with a trembling voice. Then he added something very important. Also, when you get out of here, I'm the one who changed my pants. You didn't. Give her some face. Give her some face. They wanted to cry. Xia Jinyuan said helplessly, "It's too late for me to go out now. Be good. Anyway, they're already making wild guesses. You don't have to feel burdened. My pants should be stained with your blood. I'll put you down on the mattress first. You don't have to be shy in front of me." The corners of Yi Qian's eyes were watery. He was so embarrassed that he was about to cry. In both her previous and current lives, she had never encountered such a situation. From now on, Captain Xia, please shut up. Don't say a word to me. Also, don't mention my period, don't mention blood, don't mention my pants, and don't mention the word take off. If you mention it again, I'll get angry. I'll really get angry. The stern-looking Yi Qian crawled out of Xia Jinyuan's arms. This time, it was not a comforting hug, but a hug that made her uneasy. When Xia Jinyuan saw that she was alive again, a faint smile flashed across his eyes. She had suffered too much and suffered too much. She should spend the rest of her life with him. How could she be imprisoned by the past? Okay. I won't look. I'll get you some clothes. On the verge of tears, Xia Jinyuan immediately stopped talking. Everything he said was the truth, and there was not a single lie. Who would have thought that she would explode and even fall out with him? His little fox was a woman of her words. Xia Jinyuan turned around and glanced at Yi Qian from the corner of his eye. He saw that his beloved girl's face was as red as the morning sun, and her eyes were as clear as water. She was so lively that there wasn't a single trace of gloominess in her. It was as if the little fox who had just experienced a nightmare and was exuding an aura of despair was just an illusion. It wasn't an illusion. He had seen it with his own eyes, and it couldn't be any more real. Previous life, this life? Hearing the rustling sounds behind him, Xia Jinyuan's slightly curved lips tightened. He recalled Uncle Jin mentioning that little fox's personality suddenly changed on the second day of the Lunar New Year. If he wanted to investigate, he would use the second day as the starting point to find out what else his little fox had experienced. Yi Qian, who was standing behind him, saw the large amount of blood on his pants. He wanted to cry, but had no tears. How could there be so much blood? The bloodstains on the boxers that reached half of his thighs were even larger. Flustered, Yi Qian stuffed his pants into a ball and reached for his backpack, only to find that it was in front of Xia Jinyuan again. She rubbed her face fiercely and covered herself with her pants again. She used a finger to poke the man's back. "Give me the backpack. Let me." Xia Jinyuan, who was deep in thought, snapped out of his daze. He quickly took out a set of dry boxers for female soldiers and a set of camouflage combat pants. 2 pairs of pants, and this. He then took out the sanitary bag that he had stuffed into his pocket earlier. This. K7 said there were female products in there. I haven't seen them yet. Take a look and see if there are any. Female products. He had studied them before, but he had never put them into practice. Yi Qian remained expressionless the entire time. K7 even knows about female products. What kind of comrades are they? They know about female physiology books. Menstruation, female products. They know about fighting and killing. What else do they not know? Chapter 2755. Yi Qian clenched her teeth and changed her pants when she thought of her invincible comrades. The aftereffects of standing for 5.5 hours also started to appear. No, it should be because she didn't move at all and wasn't focused on herself. She was muddle-headed and didn't notice any symptoms after standing for 5.5 hours. When she bent down, Yi Jian felt as if there was a steel plate tied to her back. It was extremely difficult for her to bend down. The moment she bent down, she seemed to hear the sound of bones rubbing against each other. Ka-ka. A grinding sound was heard. She gasped softly. Before Xia Jinyuan realized it and turned around, Yi Qian forcefully suppressed the other half of her gasp. Are you feeling unwell? Try not to bend your joints too much. Keep them straight. Xia Jinyuan heard her gasp clearly. He was constantly paying attention to every movement of the person behind him. Although he couldn't look at her directly, he was listening carefully. Yi Qian replied indifferently with a wooden face. Shut up. Don't talk to me. I don't want to listen to him. I don't want to hear his voice. I don't want to feel awkward again. She only had one thought now. Stay away from this group of comrades who even know about feminine products. Is it normal to know about feminine products? It's normal. It's just that Yi Qian can't accept it and feels very awkward. Xia Jinyuan could hear the tension in her cold voice and the embarrassment in her voice. The corners of his mouth curved slightly again. Little Fox is so good now, like a bashfully blooming flower. Its petals were stained with clear and translucent dewdrops, showing off its beauty to its heart's content. This is really good. If you want me to shut up, then I'll shut up. Xia Jinyuan chuckled softly. From his back, it was obvious that he was in a good mood. His mood changed according to her mood. When she was happy, he was happy too. Yi Qian heard his chuckle and felt even angrier. She raised her right leg and kicked him in the back. You still have the nerve to laugh. She drank it in embarrassment. When it fell into the ears of the man who was kicked forward, it became a coquettish complaint. Xia Jinyuan, who had not expected her kick, quickly supported himself with one hand on the grass. He laughed and teased. "Little fox, is this considered domestic violence? Sometimes you kick me, sometimes you kick me. My shoulder is still hurting from your kick. Now I've been kicked in the back. TSK, TSK, TSK. Typical domestic violence." Yi Qian bit her lower lip. She blushed and said angrily, "You can think of it that way too. Domestic violence? How could he say that out loud? He didn't even have a family. So how could there be domestic violence? Domestic violence is good. Domestic violence is good. I like this kind of domestic violence that doesn't hurt or itch." As Xia Jinyuan sat back down, he suddenly reached behind him and grabbed Yi Qian's bent right leg. Before Yi Qian could scream in embarrassment, he massaged Yi Qian with his slender fingers. The gentle treatment made Yi Jian suppress the scream that rushed to her throat. Yi Jian, who used both hands, no longer bent over. Instead, she exerted force on her bent legs, raised her buttocks, and pulled up her pants. Xia Jinyuan, who was massaging her, saw her legs tense up and knew that she had put on her pants. He no longer sat with his back to her and moved to face her. Chapter 2756. Yi Qian, who was tidying up a few used tissues, was stunned. She did not expect him to suddenly turn around. Realizing that the tissues she tidied up were stained with blood, Yi Qian's face was so red that it looked like blood was about to drip out. She immediately covered the tissues in her pants that she had stuffed into a ball. "Yu, why did you suddenly turn around?" Her voice was stuttering and hoarse. Xia Jinyuan had already seen the tissues. He said calmly, "When we get injured during training, the gauze will often be stained with blood. You don't have to be so nervous. The more nervous you are, the more." There was a hint of a smile in his low voice as he spoke lazily. The nonchalance in his tone made Yi Jian's heart flutter. She swallowed her saliva and couldn't help but ask, "What do you mean?" She was basically asking him to bully her. Xia Jinyuan, whose fingers were constantly helping her relax her muscles, raised his eyebrows. His handsome face, which was blurred by the oil paint, was smiling. "The more I think about what kind of blood is on it," Yi Qian's heart was in her mouth. When she heard this, her face turned red and her ears turned bright red. Her slender and fair neck was dyed a rosy red at a speed visible to the naked eye. It was so red that it was like pink jade, sparkling and translucent under the sunlight. In front of him was the most beautiful scenery in the mountains, the most beautiful painting, and the woman in front of him was the most seductive demon in the painting. When she tilted her head and lowered her eyes, the natural charm flowing from her eyebrows made Xia Jinyuan feel as if there was a fire burning in his heart. The fire burned to his throat and eyes, making them dry. He swallowed several times in a row, but it did not moisten his dry throat and eyes. Yi Qian, who was so embarrassed that she turned her head away, kept taking deep breaths. It was too embarrassing, too embarrassing. How could he say such embarrassing words? Actually, it was not surprising that he said it out loud. Ever since she had met him, he had approached her in such an unconventional way, step by step. In the end, he had pulled her into his embrace and made her willingly stay by his side. From then on, she did not want to go anywhere. Qing Niao, Yi Qian, who was looking down, heard his low and suppressed voice. Yi Qian, who was deep in thought, did not react to the suppressed tone in his voice. She didn't raise her head immediately. She hesitated. Her face was still red, and the shyness in her eyes had not subsided. She could feel the warmth that belonged to him coming from her calves. What was the suppressed feeling in his voice? Could it be that he had other thoughts? In the next second, Xia Jinyuan suddenly leaned forward and fiercely appeared in front of Yi Qian. Startled, Yi Qian subconsciously leaned back. Then, a strong hand supported her waist and prevented her from falling over. Yi Qian couldn't sit up completely when she was packing her things because of the tightness in her waist. Now that she was half leaning back, she placed all her weight on his hand that was supporting her waist. Yi Qian's joints started to feel uncomfortable. Lie down slowly, don't hurt your waist. The man's suppressed voice sounded a little strange. Yi Qian, who was tilting her head, finally faced him directly. She could smell his scent. They were so close that Yi Qian's trembling eyes could clearly see a small vortex appear in the depths of his dark eyes. He lowered his head and looked at her deeply. The small vortex that appeared grew bigger and deeper, as if it was going to suck her soul into it. He looked at her and slowly approached her. Finally, his handsome forehead touched Yi Qian's forehead. The tips of their noses were less than a centimeter apart. Their lips were so close that he could kiss her if he moved a little closer. Chapter 27:57. His handsome face was just inches away from hers, and she could feel his breath on her face. Yi Jian's heart, which had been hanging in the air, started to sway like a swing. She was so flustered that her heart was in a mess. Was he going to kiss her again? Just like before, he was going to kiss her forcefully and domineeringly. Yi Qian's body tensed up instinctively. Her waist, which was supported by one of his hands, was burning like a ball of fire. It burned her so much that she wanted to escape. Her breathing quickened, and her neck, which was as red as rouge, turned a shade darker. You get up. I feel uncomfortable, Yi Qian whispered as if she was afraid of startling him. My waist feels uncomfortable. It's sore. It won't be sore if you lie down. No, I want to stand up. It'll be even more uncomfortable if you stand up now. I'll help you loosen your muscles. Xia Jinyuan replied domineeringly. You need to relax properly in order to complete the training for the next few days. Yi Qian pursed her lips uneasily. This was telling her that what he was going to do next was definitely not to let her relax properly. How could she escape from his arms? She narrowed her eyes and thought of an idea. Without hesitation, she tilted her head to the side to separate their foreheads from each other. She then took the initiative to kiss him. Unexpectedly, this time, Xia Jinyuan did not accept her kiss. Instead, he turned his head away, leaving her lips empty. Yi Qian was speechless. Did I guess wrong? Didn't he want to kiss me? If you continue kissing, something will really happen. He sighed. He really didn't want to kiss me. Yi Qian knew that she was so embarrassed that even her toes curled up. He pressed his forehead against hers again, using an irresistible force to transfer his strength to her, making her lie down bit by bit. The hand on her waist gradually retracted its strength, but it didn't completely retract its strength. Instead, it retracted its strength as it slowly laid her half-tilted body back onto the anti-wet mat, until her waist pressed down on his arm. Lie down properly and don't move. Don't bother about the pants beside you. I've seen everything that I should and shouldn't see. There's nothing to be embarrassed about in front of me. The relationship between two people is a matter of knowing each other's secrets. You need to relax and accept my presence. Xia Jinyuan, who did not immediately get up, started lecturing Yi Qian. His gaze was fixed on her eyes, and his back muscles were already tense as he restrained the urge to kiss her. He slowly said, We need to get used to each other and accept the fact that we should share our private matters with the other half of our lives. Yi Jian was not used to this kind of communication, but she had to endure it even if she was not used to it. She did not want to make herself look weak. All right, I got it. Can I rest for a while before we gather? How's your stomach? Without answering her request, the strong and powerful man slowly bent down. Yi Jian's heart, which had been shaking, tightened fiercely. For words flashed through her mind. Finally. It's not that it's not coming. The moment his slender body was pressed against Yi Qian, Xia Jinyuan, who was leaning over, made a huge turn. His hands, which were propped up, fell to one side. Under Yi Qian's widened eyes, he lay down beside her. Did you think I would press down on you? The man's hot breath blew into her ear. Yi Qian, who had thought that he would continue to do private things, simply closed her eyes. It was too embarrassing. Chapter 27:58. You're already like this. No matter how much of a beast I am, I can't do anything to you. Also, you kissed me just now. Did you think I wanted to kiss you? He said in a low and deep voice. and there was an obvious smile in his voice. You miss my kisses too, don't you? You miss it as much as I do, right? Yi Qian closed her eyes and answered this question in silence. I didn't want to kiss you just now. I was just mesmerized by the rouge on your face. You're so beautiful that I want to hide you in my pocket. No one is allowed to look at you. As Xia Jinyuan spoke, he placed his hand on her flat stomach. Little fox, do you know how beautiful you are? So beautiful that I can't control myself. Just like now, he leaned close to her ear and couldn't help but nibble on her earlobe. I said I can't kiss you. I can't touch you. But I can't help it. I want to get closer to you. I want more. As he bit and sucked her earlobe, Yi Qian's eyelashes fluttered. She couldn't help but raise her hand to cover her face. How much more do you want to bite? You're hurting me. Her voice was buzzing and trembling. She was like a butterfly on a flower in the wind, wanting to be caught in a net. You have to stop talking too. As long as you talk, I won't be able to control myself. Xia Jinyuan felt helpless. After so many years, he still couldn't improve his self-control in front of her. His large hand gently rubbed her stomach clockwise. When he finally let go of her earlobe, he frowned. Why is it so cold? I can't even warm it up. With her earlobe released, Yi Qian was afraid that he would do something else. She quickly said, You must have caught a cold. You're also feeling a little uncomfortable. She quickly stopped the intimacy. She felt like she was being roasted on a stove. Caught a cold? Xia Jinyuan's face suddenly darkened. He immediately sat up and rubbed his hands together until his palms were hot enough to form blisters. Then he placed his palms on Yi Qian's slightly cold abdomen. Lie down properly. You need a warm-up. The book repeatedly mentioned that women should not catch a cold during their period. Once they caught a cold, they would fall ill. Xia Jinyuan was anxious. There's brown sugar syrup specially prepared for the female soldiers in the sanitary bag. There's no hot water, so you can only drink it. There's also the iron agent. It doesn't need hot water. Which one do you want to drink first? He was so anxious that his thin lips were pressed tightly together, and the air pressure was much lower. Yi Qian was a little tired, so tired that he didn't even want to lift his hand. He mumbled, I don't want to move. I want to sleep for a while. Q King, I want to sleep for a while. I'm a little tired. His palm was like a furnace, constantly releasing heat. Her originally cold lower abdomen had a comfortable warmth. This warmth was so warm that her eyelids became heavy, and she really wanted to sleep for a while. I want to lie down on my side. It's not comfortable lying flat. The sleepy Yi Qian mumbled, then turned over and laid down on his side. He even let out a soft sound of comfort. Her swinging heart also calmed down and slowly returned to her chest. With him protecting her, she didn't want to go anywhere. Xia Jinyuan flipped through the sanitary bag with one hand and found a packet of brown sugar syrup. He tore open the package with his mouth and handed it to Yi Qian. Be good. Drink this first. Drink it before you sleep. Sleep well. You can rest in the afternoon. The sweet syrup spilled out of the package. Yi Qian didn't even open his eyes as he drank about 100 milliliters of syrup in Xia Jinyuan's hand. The warmth in her lower abdomen made her yawn again. I'm going to sleep for a while, Q King. I need to replenish my energy for a while. Chapter 2759. She could rest in the afternoon, but she couldn't really rest in the afternoon. Her comrades were still training, but she was resting. Even if she rested, she would feel uncomfortable, so she might as well train together. Go to sleep, I'll watch over you. Sleep well. Xia Jinyuan touched her forehead. Her temperature was normal, and she didn't have a cold or fever. She was on her period, and her body was much weaker than usual. She had been drenched in the rain for the entire night and was punished by him to stand for 5.5 hours. A normal person would have collapsed from such high-intensity training, but Qing Niao had persevered until now. Yi Qian still cherished her body, but the environment made it impossible for her to protect herself all the time. She could only try her best not to delay her work and let her body rest. She was so tired that she couldn't keep her eyes open. She fell asleep immediately, and the entire process took no more than 3 to 5 minutes. Xia Jinyuan saw that there was still a drop of syrup at the corner of her mouth, and she had already fallen asleep. His eyes were deep. Female soldiers were always at a disadvantage compared to male soldiers when it came to training every few days of the month. This was the reason why the Snowfield Brigade didn't recruit female soldiers in the past. However, as time went on, the country's strength and military power developed, and the advantages of female soldiers gradually became more prominent. It became a trend for female soldiers to join the Special Forces. Qing Yao could be considered a female Special Forces soldier in the truest sense of the word. There was a big difference between her and the Special Forces formed by the military. Qing Yao, you still have a long way to go. If you want to catch up to me, you still have a lot of hardships to go through. You haven't even experienced the Devil Training Camp, and you haven't even started the combat training. You still have a lot of training to do. Female soldiers can endure hardships, and it has been proven that they are much stronger than male soldiers. It can be clearly seen from your body. All your statistics show that you are much better than male soldiers. So, Qing Yao, you have to persevere, Xia Jinyuan said softly. When he looked at Yi Qian, there was only tenderness in his eyes. His little fox still had a long way to go. For example, there were several types of land combat skills. Intelligence gathering, long-range reconnaissance, patrolling and ambushing, infiltration of buildings, close-range combat, sniping and anti-sniping, high-speed escape driving in an emergency, the use of cold weapons, hand-to-hand combat, survival under extreme conditions, battlefield medical treatment, bomb clearance and defensive deployment, small-scale and large-scale troop tactics, infiltration and evacuation techniques, captive capture and prisoner of war training, night urban mobility. Just to name a few, there were 16 or 17 types of land combat training. He had some experience with training on the sea, but his foundation in air training was still zero. His little fox still had a long way to go, but he couldn't just wait for her to catch up. She would have to put in a lot of effort if she wanted to catch up to him. Xia Jinyuan finally retracted his hand when he felt the warmth in his flat and soft belly and no longer felt the chill in his heart. After rubbing for more than an hour, it finally warmed up. Xia Jinyuan raised his hand and swung it a few times. In order to warm up her cold belly, his hand didn't stop. His arm was also a little sore. While he was swinging his hand, 2 ants finally climbed over the moisture-proof mat and crawled towards the sweet smell. Colonel Xia was quick to react. He immediately flung the 2 ants that were trying to climb to the corner of Yi Qian's mouth to the side. Then, Colonel Xia bent down and carefully licked away the congealed syrup. The devil who had finally finished his round trip walked in with large strides. He happened to see the pervert that the whole family was guarding against lowering his head and acting like a pervert with his sister. Chapter 2760. Li Jingyan, who was choking on his anger, took 3 steps at a time, his aura surging fiercely. Xia Jinyuan, who was licking the chaff pulp with the tip of his tongue, sharply sensed that Xia Jinyuan did not come with good intentions. He looked up and swept his sharp gaze forward. When he saw his future brother-in-law, Colonel Xia's eyelids twitched violently. He was caught red-handed by his brother-in-law when he took advantage of Yi Jian. In order to prevent his brother-in-law from flying into a rage, Colonel Xia preemptively reminded Li Jingyan that Yi Qian was sleeping and not to be too loud to wake her up. Just now Although Li Jingyan saw that Colonel Xia had shushed him, he could no longer control himself and interrupted his sentence. It took him a lot of effort to swallow the other half of his sentence when he saw his sister's sleeping face. He pointed at the cold-faced devil next to him and said in a low voice, "Let's talk in front." He was very angry, so angry that there was a hint of hostility between his brows. She was having a nightmare just now. I want to accompany her. Xia Jinyuan did not move. If his brother-in-law was angry and fell asleep with his girlfriend, he would naturally choose the latter. She's not feeling very well. I have something to do. Let's talk about it later. It was normal for his brother-in-law to be angry after being caught stealing a kiss. Previously, he had warned him not to touch his sister. Although he did not agree, he was still caught red-handed. The devil, who was so angry that his face turned black, probably wanted to hit him again. Li Jinyan did have such thoughts. However, he knew that Xia Jinyuan would not use Yi Qian's incident as a shield. His handsome face coldly sat down with him and looked over with a cold gaze. K7 just told me that you don't care about Qing Niao's health. If anything happens to her, Q King, don't you feel embarrassed to face Qing Niao? Don't you feel embarrassed to visit the Fu family again? Her dates are not accurate. She would either come earlier or later. I thought it would take another 2 or 3 days. Who knew that she would come earlier this month? Xia Jinyuan smiled bitterly. This time, it's my fault for not paying attention. She even fainted. Li Jinyan clenched his fists as he asked. He understood his brother's good intentions. Although he was happy for his sister, compared to her health, he only hoped that she would be safe and sound. I know she fainted. I thought she would faint before. Demon King, some things are destined to be obtained through sacrifice. It's very cruel, but also very real. K7 reminded me that Qing Niao was on her period. I thought about ending her punishment, but in the end, I held myself back. I have to endure it, and so does she. When Qing Niao wakes up, you can ask her what her goal is. When you know her goal, I believe you'll understand why I'm so cruel. Demon King. Although Qing Niao is Old Master's biological granddaughter, she grew up in a very different environment from us. You and I could be said to have lived a luxurious life. When we were young, we were spoiled by our families, but Qing Niao was not. Before she returned to the Fu family, she relied on her own hard work. She was hardworking, and unrelenting. These were the impressions that Qing Niao left on everyone. Regardless of whether she returned to the Fu family or not, this was the impression that her comrades had of her. I don't have the right to destroy the impression that she left on her comrades. Before she says so, I will not end the punishment. I will only observe in secret. I am indeed cruel. From the day I confirmed my relationship with Qing Niao, I had a deep conversation with her. We both know that there is a difference between life and training. Li Jinyan, who was shocked, let go of his hand. Every time he talked to Q King about his sister, he realized how thoughtful he was. Chapter 2761. He was really holding his sister's hand and walking forward step by step. He was teaching his sister to be strong and brave. She's destined to become an extraordinary special forces soldier. As for me, I'll definitely do my best to clean up the path she's taken before she walks on a broad path. I won't leave behind any dirt for others to criticize or for people with ulterior motives to make a fuss about it. Devil. Qing Niao's life hasn't been easy. Every step she takes now is extremely important, and every step she takes must be done carefully. Don't forget, there are people who don't want her to live at all, who don't want her to become a talent. Li Jinyan's heart felt like it was being hammered again and again. Even his breathing became labored. His expression became increasingly cold, and he pursed his thin lips so tightly that they formed a straight line. I don't want anyone to deny her hard work. I don't want her to be framed again in the future, and I don't want her hard work to go to waste. I won't allow the suffering she went through in the past to happen again. Therefore, he would rather be cruel now than have her be blamed in the future. Li Jinyan's breathing was very rapid. He panted as if he was out of oxygen and could suffocate at any time. Li Jinyan stared fixedly at Xia Jinyuan, whose every word was like a hammer pressing down on his heart. His heart was in a mess as he asked anxiously, "What else did my sister go through in the past?" I only know that Yi Jifan's family treated her very badly. As for how badly they treated her, she told me that it's all in the past, and there's no need to mention it again. Xia Jinyuan, please tell me what my sister went through in the past. His cold voice was like a sword, sharp as it swept out. I really want to know. Please tell me. The man in front of him had been with his sister for 7 years. He knew too much about their family that they didn't know. If he wanted to know what kind of environment his sister used to live in, he could only find out through him. To ask his younger sister about her past was too cruel. The wound that had healed with much difficulty was torn open once more, revealing painful memories. It was too cruel to his younger sister. The reason why Xia Jinyuan suddenly brought up Yiqian's past was because he wanted to use kinship to get rid of the last shadow in Yiqian's eyes. Past and present lives? Indeed, he did not believe in past lives. He only believed that she must have experienced pain in the past that he did not know of. There's a lot. If you want to know, I'll tell you slowly. I can't do it now. You'll wake her up. Xia Jinyuan nodded calmly. He would never go back on his word. I can tell you, but you can't tell Qing Yao. When it comes to her matters, I've always said that if she doesn't tell me, I won't mention it. But you are her brother, her family. If you know some of her past, you can understand her better. The more I know about her, the more I know how difficult it was for her to get to where she is now. It was because of my cruelty and her persistence that we were able to get to where we are now. Demon King, she and I still need to continue walking side by side. I want her to head towards her goal and achieve her goal without any distractions. It was because of my cruelty and her persistence that we were able to get to where we are now. These words fell into Li Jinyan's heart, causing him to be unable to come back to his senses for a long time. The wind blew through the leaves, bringing with it a sound that calmed one's heart. When it blew past one's face, it was as if it had blown away the dust in one's eyes. When one looked at it, one's heart was as clear as a mirror. Chapter 2762. Li Jinyan's icy expression gradually melted. His gaze fell on the face of the man who had been guarding his sister and unwilling to leave. Then he looked straight into his eyes. After a while, he said thoughtfully, I think I understand why my sister likes you. As a man, I have to say that what you have done is really rare. If it were me, I might not be able to do what you have done. You reached out to my sister when she was at her toughest. When she needed someone to help her the most, you held her hand in time. In the blink of an eye, 7 years have passed. You and her, who were strangers, have become close. Q King, you really care about my sister. It's not that I care. Xia Jinyuan's gaze landed on the face of his beloved girl, who was in deep sleep. As he lowered his eyes, the corners of his mouth naturally lifted into a gentle smile. She is the world. She is my world. How could he just care? There were too many uncertainties in caring about something like this. Perhaps one day, he would be able to care for someone else. The only world that would never change was his own. She was his world that would never change. Needless to say, Xia Jinyuan's words completely changed Li Jinyan's opinion of Xia Jinyuan. He knew that Q King was outstanding and not an ordinary man. He also knew that he had been mischievous since he was young. Even Commander-in-Chief Xia had a headache over him. He said that he and Li Jinyan had lived a life of luxury since they were young, but he was wrong. At least when Li Jinyan was young, he had to take care of his sick mother for a long time and deal with the Li family. He did not have the capital to be as presumptuous as Xia Jinyuan. I did have some opinions about you in the past. You're the crown prince of the capital. Everyone has to give you face. With your qualifications, your capital, and your family background, you can totally have fun. You can change girlfriends as easily as changing clothes. You can change them as you want without any reluctance. Changing girlfriends as easily as changing clothes? That's Hanjiang. I, Xia Jinyuan, grew up, and Yiqian was my first love. She's also the only girl that moved my heart. Xia Jinyuan couldn't help but laugh in disbelief. After that, he said with a complicated expression, Why would you think of me that way? We've trained together for more than half a year. Even if you don't know me very well, you should know me a little. You may know a man's face, but not his heart. Haven't you heard of this before? Li Jinyan coldly glanced at him. If you hadn't said those words just now, my impression of you would still be that of a hedonistic son of a rich family. I wouldn't feel at ease leaving my sister to you. I would have to test you for at least 3 to 5 years. Test. Xia Jinyuan furrowed his brows, and his handsome face darkened. Fortunately, his face was covered in oil paint, so Li Jinyan couldn't see it. Test and inspection. The difference of one word is huge. You scared me. A test meant that they would create all kinds of trouble for him. With the Li family's ability, they might even stuff beautiful women into his arms. Thinking of this possibility, Xia Jinyuan clenched his teeth. Brother-in-law, you can't go overboard. Be careful that you don't have to do that one day. Fortunately, I've confessed my feelings to you. If you had really revealed it, I would have been injured even if I had to tear you apart. It was too dangerous, too dangerous. He didn't know that Demon King Li was actually trying to create trouble for him. You're quite lucky that you didn't wait for me to make a move. Li Jinyan knew from his expression that Xia Jinyuan had guessed what he would do in the future. He didn't deny it and raised his brows. Before my fist landed, your explanation shocked me. Chapter 2763. Just now, when Li Jinyan saw the kiss, there was only one thought in his mind, and that was to beat up the bastard who kissed his sister until he became completely obedient. If Xia Jinyuan had not made a hush gesture in time, Li Jinyan would have punched him the moment he walked over. At this moment, the urge to beat him up had lessened, but his fists were still itching. Li Jinyan interlocked his fingers, and his knuckles cracked. He said calmly, although I was shocked, facing a guy who kissed my sister, my fists. He clenched his fists and waved them in front of Xia Jinyuan. I still want to learn from you. As for brother-in-law, it's better if you don't call me that. First of all, you don't have a child yet. Speaking of this, Li Jinyan suddenly thought of something. His eyes suddenly became sharp, and he said in a deep voice, my whole family doesn't want my sister to have a child so early. Q King, did you really bully my sister? No, she's still young. Xia Jinyuan, who was thinking that was close, answered Li Jinyan confidently without hesitation. I've known her for 7 years, and our relationship is still pure. After telling the truth, Xia Jinyuan felt a little strange. Devil, don't you feel awkward talking about these private matters? Would an older brother ask his sister if she had an intimate relationship with her boyfriend? Would he ask? Why did he feel more and more awkward? Li Jinyan was really stumped by the question. After a while, he said, I don't know, but I think so. It turned out that he didn't even know how awkward it was to ask about these things. Xia Jinyuan, whose face was a little gloomy, thought that he had to squash the bud. He said in a deep voice, probably not. I won't ask you again. After thinking it over, Li Jinyan, who also believed that he couldn't ask, immediately agreed and said, but don't call me brother-in-law again. I'm afraid that after hearing it, I want to ask you for advice. Although he was shocked by him, he was not so touched that he would immediately hand over his younger sister to him. Xia Jinyuan, who was finally free from his brother-in-law's meddling in his personal affairs, thought that he had resolved a major issue. Now that he heard this, he smiled bitterly. Ask for advice? This was asking him to go up and ask for a beating. Xia Jinyuan, who had been sparred last night, replied calmly, I don't dare to ask for advice. Let's have a spar. We can spar. Since you're so nice to my sister, I won't do anything like a test. I don't want her to be sad. It's about her. Li Jinyan's heart was heavy. He did not finish his sentence. Instead, he looked gently at Yi Qian's face. This was his only sister. The Fu family had lost his aunt and sent his sister to the Fu family. Not only did it make up for the scar in his grandfather's heart, but it also redeemed his uncle, who missed his wife dearly. His sister was the apple of his eye and the pearl in his grandfather's and uncle's hearts. They were her closest family, and they wanted her to live a smooth life. Xia Jinyuan's sacrifice was not something that an ordinary man could do. The two of you are pretty good. At least you're both soldiers. I think you can go far together. Facing the person his sister liked, even the taciturn Li Jinyan had endless things to say. Love alone is far from enough to support the relationship between two soldiers. They also have to endure long-term separation, worry, longing, and the perseverance of life and death. Chapter 2764. It's fine for female soldiers to find a partner, but not for male soldiers. There are many islands in the Southern Sea, and our country's navy is stationed on those islands all year round. It's normal for soldiers to not return home for 3 to 5 years. I know a few good friends who didn't return home for many years. Even if their sister-in-law gave birth to a child, they all ended up divorcing. Q King. Loneliness is the most terrible enemy when dating a soldier. It will ruthlessly shatter the peace of a family at some point in time, causing a couple who should have been together for the rest of their lives to end up as strangers. You and my sister are both soldiers and will be assigned to the same unit. If you can really stay together, it will be a good thing. But there are clear rules in the unit that husband and wife can't be in the same unit or work in the same place. Once you establish a good relationship with my sister, have you ever thought that one day you two will be separated? I've heard too many stories of divorce after being separated for a long time. It's so often that I've lost confidence in marriage and have no confidence in managing my own marriage. I hope that you and my sister can really stay together until the end and not let each other's families worry about you. He would always remember the platoon leader who was stationed on the farthest island. On the night he came back from his shift, he drank himself into a stupor. In the end, this man, who had escaped death several times, laid on the beach and cried. Later, he found out that the platoon leader's wife had sent him a divorce agreement and a letter from home. The letter listed the platoon leader's 10 major crimes. The most painful thing was the platoon leader's wife directly told him that marrying him was the stupidest and most brainless thing she had ever done in her life. Look, dating a soldier is so lonely. It's so lonely that you feel like you're just hugging a photo and they'll never appear by your side when you need them the most. Li Jinyin was afraid of waking up Yi Qian, who was still sound asleep, so he lowered his voice when he spoke. It was very soft and light, and only Xia Jinyuan could hear him clearly. Perhaps because he was shocked by Xia Jinyuan's heartfelt confession, Li Jinyin didn't feel as distant as before during this conversation. Xia Jinyuan, who realized this, was a little surprised. He didn't expect that he would be able to shorten the distance between him and Li Jinyin. This was quite an unexpected gain. We both know what's going on between Yi Qian and I. There's no need for our families to worry about us. As Xia Jinyuan spoke, Yi Qian, who had slept for more than an hour and a half, suddenly turned over. He was in a deep sleep, and there was a mark on his cheek. With more than an hour and a half of rest, her face was no longer pale. Instead, it had the color of lotus petals and a healthy pink. The two of them stopped talking at the same time. Even their breathing became lighter. Their gazes were equally gentle as they gazed at Yi Qian. After a nap, Yi Qian was still a little lazy. As her brain gradually woke up, she suddenly realized that someone was staring at her. Because she didn't feel any sense of danger, Yi Qian's expression was very sleepy when she opened her eyes. When she opened her eyes and blinked again, not only did she see Captain Xia, but she also saw her brother. "Did you rest well?" Li Jinyin's cold and handsome face revealed a slight smile. He asked, "Do you want to rest for a while more? Q King just told me that you can rest this afternoon." Yi Qian didn't care if she could rest this afternoon. What she cared about was whether Captain Xia was beaten up or not. Big Brother had told her before that she couldn't let Captain Xia touch her. But today, Captain Xia was going to change her pants. Yi Qian hurriedly got up and smiled calmly. "I slept well. I don't need to rest this afternoon. I can continue training." Chapter 2765. When Li Jinyin heard Yi Qian personally say that the afternoon training could continue, he instantly understood what Xia Jinyuan meant by his cruelty, her perseverance. One gave silently, the other calmly accepted. One watched, the other moved forward. Just like that, they held hands tightly, never letting go no matter how many storms they went through. This kind of love had nothing to do with romance, nothing to do with words of love, and nothing to do with vows of eternal love. As soldiers, their path of love was destined to be different from that of ordinary people. There was no romance, nothing to do with romance, nothing to do with words of love, and nothing to do with vows of eternal love. But you could see that love was stronger than gold. Li Jinyin raised his hand and gently rubbed Yi Qian's head. He said softly, "That's good. Everyone was worried about you. Our comrades outside, are also waiting for your news. Since you're fine, go out and greet them so that they can rest assured." The corner of Xia Jinyuan's mouth twitched, and he said that he wasn't going to test him. Look. At this moment, his brother-in-law couldn't wait to send Little Fox away from him so that he wouldn't have time to be alone with Little Fox. Why was his brother-in-law the same as his old man Xia? Both of them couldn't bear to see him doing well. Lieutenant Colonel Xia felt a little helpless. However, his Little Fox was quite obedient. Hearing this, she quickly stood up and said to the Demon King, I'm sorry. I made my comrade worry about me. I'm really fine. I just fainted because I didn't rest well." In order to prove that he was in good spirits, in good condition, and in good health, Yi Jian habitually straightened his chest and patted himself on the chest. He said loudly, "Now, I'm full of energy and I'm a good man again." Full of energy and a good man again. Not only did his words make Li Jinyan smile, but his comrades who cared about Yi Qian also laughed heartily. "Ioyo, why is Qin Miao so interesting and funny? I only heard that 18 years later, he would be a hero again. Qin Miao, your self-creation is not bad. It rhymes quite well. Ha. A hero has appeared in the Jianghu again. There will be a new round of bloodshed in the Jianghu. Hero, Qin Miao, have mercy. I've learned something again today. Next time, I can also pat my chest and say, I'm full of energy and vigor, and I'm a real man. In the evening training, a real man must be Qin Miao. Don't show any mercy. I still want to learn a few moves." Yes. I want to learn too. Qin Miao, you form a team. We'll follow you." Faced with the teasing and concern of his comrades, Yi Qian, who felt warm in his heart, kept the corners of his mouth raised high. His gurgling smile was as clear as spring water, slowly flowing into the hearts of his comrades. His comrades, who had been training for a day, could not help but smile. Emotions were contagious. Yi Qian's strength and happiness infected every one of his comrades. It swept away the fatigue of the day and made them feel relaxed all of a sudden. When Xia Jinyuan walked out, he saw the girl he loved deeply talking and laughing with his comrades. She was calm and collected. However, in that moment, his girl ran away like a rabbit, afraid that he would let her stay. Even Xia Jinyuan looked down at the pants in his hands. He smiled helplessly, but there was a deep indulgence in his smile. She ran away so quickly because she felt embarrassed. Chapter 2766. But Little Fox, you didn't even manage to hide your pants and the pile of dark brown tissues. In the end, he had to take care of them. Little Fox, your embarrassment will continue later. When it was time to rest, Xia Jinyuan didn't disturb Yi Qian, who was talking to her comrades. Instead, he took the combat uniform that they had changed out of and went to the mountain stream. There was a lot of water in the Zhongchuan Mountains, which was why it was so beautiful. The Special Forces soldiers, who had been training for several months, were waiting for the mountain stream to clean their bodies and wash their clothes. They didn't have any cleaning products. Instead, they picked up locust leaves that had fallen from the mountains and rubbed them to make a thick, slippery detergent. Using natural products from the mountains to wash their bodies and clothes was the most suitable. Li Jinyan saw that Yi Qian's blood was rosy and she wasn't as pale as before. Only then did his tensed heart slowly relax. After a few hours of training, the comrades, who hadn't even eaten lunch, split up and followed Li Jinyan's instructions. They all worked together and performed their own duties. Yi Qian had already noticed Xia Jinyuan coming out of the corner of her eye. When she saw that her comrades weren't paying attention to her, she immediately headed in a certain direction. When she walked into the mountain stream, she saw the man's tall and straight body squatting. His arched back faintly revealed his hidden strength as he rubbed his clothes with both hands. His perfectly curved muscles were faintly discernible through the tight combat uniform, showing off the man's sexiness. Yi Qian saw the clothes piled by his feet. Her face instantly turned red as she looked around. She gently picked up a branch and tiptoed closer. The rippling water of the clear stream reflected Xia Jinyuan's handsome face. Through the layers of water, She could faintly see the smile on his thin lips. No matter how light her footsteps were, Xia Jinyuan knew who was approaching him. You were in a hurry to escape from me just now. Why are you here now? Just as Ichien was about to pick up her wash clothes with a twig, Xia Jinyuan, who had his back to her, spoke with a faint smile. Yi Qian was so shocked that her hand trembled and the twig in her hand fell to the ground. Xia Jinyuan, who had just finished wringing the last piece of clothing out of the water, turned around and saw Yi Qian blushing. She stood there like a shy little girl who wanted to say something. In order to appear calm, she even put her hands behind her back in an attempt to hide something. Her calm appearance could deceive others, but she couldn't deceive him. You've finished bathing? Although her hands were behind her back, she didn't dare to look at Xia Jinyuan. She kept looking at the scenery. Yi Jianan's face was flushed red. The scenery was beautiful, but Yi Qian was not in the mood to appreciate it. When Yi Qian saw Xia Jinyuan come out with his clothes in his hands, she resisted the urge to rush over and snatch the clothes from him. She stood there until her comrades went to do their own things. Before she came over, she thought that he should still be washing his own clothes and that he hadn't started washing hers yet. When she walked over to take a look, reality hit her hard. They're all done. Xia Jinyuan, who had finished washing the 2 sets of clothes, picked up the wet clothes. Seeing her shy look, his heart itched like a cat was scratching it. Yes, I've washed them. You were in such a hurry just now. Didn't you want me to wash them for you? No. Yi Qian's gaze fell on his face. I didn't mean to let you wash them. I can wash them myself. After saying that, she immediately looked away and didn't dare to look at him again. Chapter 2767. Xia Jinyuan was amused by her helpless behavior. His smile deepened. How could his girl be so cute? It was time to rest. Unwilling to let her leave, Lieutenant Colonel Xia pretended to be confused. He frowned slightly and asked her, no? But at that time, you left with the devil without looking back. You didn't even pack your things. Didn't that mean you wanted me to pack and wash your things? Did I misunderstand? You misunderstood. I really didn't mean that. At that time, I just wanted my brother to leave quickly and not see eye. Yi Qian stuttered for a long time, but couldn't finish her sentence. Lieutenant Colonel Xia, whose heart was itching because of the person in front of him, understood what she meant. Afraid of being seen by the devil? That's why you were in a hurry to leave? Yi Qian hummed in a low voice. Her fair face was redder than a flower. Now that this matter is known to all, I was so nervous when I spoke to them just now. I was afraid that they would ask me. Luckily, no one asked, and K7 didn't say anything. That's why I didn't feel so awkward. You already knew anyway, but you still saw it. If my brother sees it again, I'll be so embarrassed that I won't want to show my face for a few days. She was still embarrassed to face it. Xia Jinyuan's heart was filled with sweetness, as if he had poured a cup of honey. Even though the Demon King is your closest relative, I'm still different from him, right? The lieutenant colonel, who was feeling sweet in his heart, tried to tempt her. Faced with Xia Jinyuan's question, Yi Qian was as shy as a hibiscus. However, she didn't feel nervous when facing her comrades, nor did she feel embarrassed when facing Li Jinyan. Hearing this, she nodded honestly. Of course it's different. My brother is my family, and you're my lover. You said it yourself that we have to get used to sharing our private matters with the other half of our lives. My brother is my family, and you're my lover. I'd rather let you see it than let my brother see it. Yi Qian subconsciously thought that Xia Jinyuan was the one who could see everything about her, including her private matters. Although Li Jinyan was her brother, he was still a man and a woman. How could she let her brother know about her private matters? The only one who would know would definitely be his most intimate lover. Finally hearing what he wanted to hear, Lieutenant Colonel Xia felt as comfortable as drinking a bowl of iced mung bean porridge on a hot summer day. His entire body and mind were refreshed, and even his pores were filled with joy. No matter how powerful his brother-in-law was, he wasn't afraid anymore. His girlfriend was already standing beside him. What was there to be afraid of? His wet, slender fingers lightly scratched the tip of her nose. The handsome Lieutenant Colonel Xia sighed. You still have some conscience. Just now, you left with the Demon King without even looking back. My heart went cold. The tip of Yi Qian's nose was wet. He smiled as he raised his hand to wipe it away. He glanced sideways at Yi Qian and said, "Is your heart cold? Is it warm now? Don't think I don't know that you were trying to trick me. You can tell. Of course I can. I'm not stupid." Xia Jinyuan's smile deepened. His deep black eyes were filled with a gentle smile. He stared at her delicate face that was even more beautiful than the green mountains and clear waters in the faint sunlight. His low voice was like the strings of a zither being pulled slowly. "Then why did you say it out loud? If you want to hear it, then I'll say it. If you don't want to hear it." Yi Qian, with her pink cheeks, raised her eyebrows. Her bright eyes looked at the man whose gentleness was about to envelop her. Seeing that Yi Qian looked a little helpless because of her intentional pause, Yi Qian became even more spirited and said with a smile, "If you don't want to hear it, I'll say it again." Chapter 2768. Amidst the blue sky and beautiful water, the two of them looked at each other. The love in their eyes was so deep that even K7, who was still some distance away, couldn't help but stop in his tracks. "Go to the side. It's not convenient here." He stopped his comrade from following behind and left some space for the two of them to look at each other for a long time. Q King and Qing Miao were indeed a good match. Occupation, talent, appearance, temperament. They were a perfect match in every aspect. The two of them existed for each other. Without one of them, they would both be single for the rest of their lives. K7, who rarely spoke, sometimes seemed like an invisible person wherever he stood, used his meticulous and cold eyes to discover the bond between Xia Jinyuan and Yi Qian. Xia Jinyuan saw Yi Qian's back as he turned to leave. He didn't say anything to Yi Qian. Instead, he pointed up and invited Yi Qian to climb the tree with him. Young men and women dating in amusement parks, cinemas, cafes, shopping malls, they held hands and walked around romantically, enjoying the joy of being in love. But Lieutenant Colonel Xia and Yi Qian's relationship didn't have that. The most romantic thing they did was to climb a tree together and hang their wet combat uniforms on the tree to dry. Luckily, there's plenty of water, so you can wash off your sweat and stink. You didn't see the scene where the combat uniform stood up after taking it off, but you'll have a chance to see it in the future. You'll experience it for yourself. As he spoke, Xia Jinyuan jumped down from the tree. He opened his arms and smiled at Yi Qian, who hadn't come down yet. "Do you dare to jump?" He asked her if she dared to jump into his arms. Of course, Yi Qian dared. She raised her eyebrows and jumped down from the tree without any warning. His strong arms hugged her tightly. Why wouldn't she dare? If he dared to say it, she dared to jump. "Aren't you afraid that I won't be able to catch you?" he asked. Yi Qian blinked. Bright colors poured out from his eyes. "There's no such possibility. You'll definitely catch me. Even if I jump from a high place, you'll definitely catch me without a frown." "You trust me that much?" "If I don't trust you, who should I trust? Should I trust someone else?" "Oh, you even know how to stab him?" Xia Jinyuan raised his hand and quickly flicked her forehead. "The goods have been sold and are non-refundable. You only have one choice, and it's for life." During the short break, the two of them chatted and laughed softly, creating a space of their own. No comrades came to disturb them, and they all chose to avoid them. Although the relationship between the two wasn't made clear, those who didn't know, especially the members of the Storm Commandos, didn't disturb them because they were restrained by Li Jinyan. In any case, the comrades of the Snowfield Brigade basically knew what was going on. In the evening, Yi Qian did not choose to rest during the shooting practice. Instead, he and his team members completed a series of shooting exercises of the same difficulty, such as jumping, hanging upside down, running, and so on. The 15 of them only ended their hard training at 8 o'clock in the evening. For the next few days, Yi Qian, like the male soldiers, completed all the exercises one by one. Even when her period ended, she didn't ask for a day off. She didn't even complain. Her persistence won the respect of all the team members. Young Sparrowhawk said to his comrades emotionally. The female soldiers are so strong that they're like Qing Yao. Even the male soldiers are ashamed of their inferiority. I'm impressed by her injured training spirit. You're impressed, and so am I. With a female soldier like Qing Yao by my side, I'm even more motivated. I'm afraid that if I slack off, she'll leave me far behind. Chapter 2769. I think it'll be difficult to meet a female soldier like Qing Yao in the future. It'll probably be difficult to meet one in our lifetime. Unless we recruit another female soldier, we might be able to see the beauty of a female soldier again. Ha ha, brother, you must be joking. Recruit another female soldier like Qing Yao? A female soldier like Qing Yao is hard to come by. You want to meet two more? Don't be so greedy. I'm really greedy. A female soldier like Qing Yao is indeed hard to come by. Although she has only trained with us for about 20 days, the shock she gives me is stronger and stronger. Now that the training is over, I'm actually still not used to it. Hearing this, young Sparrowhawk asked G3, "Do you think Qing Yao will still train with us? If she's not on duty during the winter break, she should come to our team to train." "I don't know. We'll have to ask you, King." G3, who had a weed in his mouth, shook his head. His gravel-like voice contained a hint of laziness. "We can ask together later. Now, brothers, let's have a good rest. The helicopter will come later. Don't be too weak to climb the rope when the time comes." Where did Q King go? He doesn't need to take so long to take a shower. Ha ha! Could it be that the sweat and salt on his body is too thick, so he has to use a stone to scrape it off? 5 minutes ago, the Devil King called him away. Only you have to use a stone to scrape it off. G3 raised his leg and smiled as he lightly kicked V8, who was joking. Rest, you can rest now. Why aren't you resting? Sleep for a while. All of you go to sleep. When you wake up, we can all leave. After a few months of special training, 2 helicopters would arrive on time at 7:30 p.m. tonight. They would take 2 teams of special forces and leave Zhangchuan Mountains. The water ghosts of the storm commandos had just finished washing up and came back with wet hair. The 2 teams chatted for a while before lying down on the grass to rest. At a certain distance away from the team members, the kings of the 2 teams were engaged in a heated hand-to-hand combat. Xia Jinyuan dodged the fierce punch and said, "Brother-in-law, we have to discuss this. You can't hit my face. It will affect my image. If Yu Qian sees us later, he might even give us a good scolding. Whether or not you can avoid being slapped in the face depends on whether you have the ability to avoid it." Li Jingyan, who hadn't made a move until today, said coldly, "If you can dodge it, it won't hit your face. If you can't dodge it, you can only blame yourself for not having the ability to dodge it." No ability? How could Xia Jinyuan tolerate this when it concerned his pride? Why don't we count who has the most bruises on his face? With that, he threw a punch at Li Jinyan's face. What brother-in-law? Let's talk about that after the fight. The 2 men, who were equally strong and capable, waved their fists. Every punch was barehanded, and they used at least 80% of their strength. They couldn't use all their strength. They still had to participate in the competition in a few days. If they hurt their muscles and bones in advance, they would be in trouble. They would return to the military and wait to be taught a lesson. Li Jingyan had wanted to beat up the guy in front of him for stealing a kiss from his sister for a few days. Now that he had the chance, his fist swung with a strong gust of wind, and it still hurt when it brushed past his face. His face was dodged, but his body was punched. It was so painful that his facial features were distorted. "You're serious." Xia Jinyuan, who had been punched in the stomach, was in so much pain that his face was unrecognizable. "I've always been serious. I've never been fake. Q King, we haven't had a proper fight since we were assigned to our respective teams, right? Come, let's have a proper fight this time. Just don't hurt your bones." Since Li Jingyan had issued a challenge, there was no reason for Xia Jinyuan not to accept it. Unable to understand what he meant by electrocuted, Li Jingyan asked him, You have 3 days of rest. One day you can go out. Are you going back home? Or are you accompanying my sister back to the Fu family? Xia Jinyuan, whose heart had almost jumped to Yi Qian's side due to the electrocution, quickly pulled his heart back. He was so shocked that he didn't answer immediately. What he meant? Why did it sound like his brother-in-law wanted him to accompany little Fox back home? There was only 1 day of leave. Forget it. It was better to go home separately. He hadn't been back to the Fu family mansion to visit old master and old madam in a long time. Moreover, he hadn't been there for old master's birthday. He should go back to the Fu family mansion for a day of leave. After deliberating for a while, he smiled and said, "Based on our arrangements, I'll definitely visit old master. As for my family, reporting to the military is the same as going back to my home. I need to go back to the Fu family mansion to visit old master and old madam. We might go home separately." Chapter 2771. Li Jinyin was very satisfied with his answer, and his cold expression softened a little. "It's best if you go home separately. I'll go home with my sister, and you can go back to the old mansion alone. Let your families know that you're safe and sound, and don't let them worry about you. The two of you are only in a relationship now, and it's a relationship that can't be exposed. You really need to go to each other's houses less often. You're right. We should be careful. When we get married in the future, there won't be any more scruples." Xia Jinyuan, who already knew what was going on, sighed silently. Brother-in-law is still hard to deal with. At the mention of marriage, Li Jinyin pondered for a moment and asked in a low and cold voice with a hint of confusion, "Have you always planned to get married? Before I met Yi Qian, I never thought that I would consider marriage." Xia Jinyuan shook his head. He was usually calm, but now he was a little sad. "I never thought of getting married at all. Before I met Yi Qian, I always thought that I was a little *king different from the rest. Love was just a pile of junk in his eyes. Instead of going back and forth with a woman, I'd rather hold a gun and clean it. That would be more meaningful." At this point, Li Jinyin seemed to find a resonance with him, and he even nodded gently. Seeing this, Xia Jinyuan raised his eyebrows and asked with a smile, "Why does it seem like you have the same idea as me?" "Indeed, until now, I've never thought of getting married, nor have I thought of having a girlfriend by my side in the future," Li Jinyin admitted calmly. "You met my sister, so you changed your mind, but I'm still holding on." "Why didn't you want to get married at that time?" he asked. Xia Jinyuan narrowed his dark eyes and thought for a while before answering. "When I was in my teens, I was a little agitated, and I suddenly became sensible overnight. That was the year I set my goal. I knew that I would be in a lot of danger for the rest of my life, and I might not even be able to live to the age of 70 or 80. It's also possible that after going to the battlefield today, they'll come back with a small box with a red flag on it. Tell me, people like us who might not even have a long life, why should we waste our time talking about love and love? Why should we date and have sex with a woman we don't know well at all? What if he leaves a seed in the world but dies in the end? Not only will he implicate others, but he will also make a woman who can completely disassociate herself from him cry her heart out. I once saw a martyr's wife receive her husband's urn with my own eyes. The despair in her eyes was something I could not forget for a long time. I would even wake up in the middle of the night. This feeling, Li Jinyin had a deep understanding of it. I'm about the same as you. In the past, I didn't have much resistance to marriage. What really made me feel that marriage was not about me alone. The situation was similar to yours. We were both comrades who sacrificed themselves. Sister-in-law, who came to pick him up, fainted for a while on the plane. After getting off the plane and on the way to the army, she fainted again from crying. When she saw him lying motionless in the sea of flowers, she fainted several times while holding her child. They were all soldiers, and they had seen too many sacrifices. Every sacrifice was unacceptable to them, and what was even more unacceptable were the parents, wives, and young children of their comrades. Every time they saw it, they would be so upset that they would vent their emotions on the training ground until their last bit of strength was exhausted. Only then would they lie down on the training ground and stare at the sky with their eyes wide open until tears came out of their eyes. Chapter 2772. Li Jinyan found a rock and sat down. His slender legs were slightly apart, his arms were on his knees, and his fingers were crossed. He began to talk to Xia Jinyuan about the reasons why he had never thought of marriage. In the past, the two of them only had a relationship of appreciation for each other, and they didn't see each other often, so there was a sense of distance between them. Now, because of Yi Qian's existence, the two of them were closer, and it was natural for them to talk about things from the bottom of their hearts. The first time I saw a sacrifice was not long after I entered the Navy. A few days ago, the soldier who sacrificed himself stood on the island and told me with a smile that in a week, his wife would come to see him with their 4-year-old daughter. When I saw him again, his body was swollen from being soaked in seawater, and he was clutching a plastic bag with heroin in his hand. He encountered a drug smuggler at sea and was killed. The day I found him happened to be the soldier's wife and son happily took the train for a day and a night, then took the plane for half a day, and finally took a 4-hour boat ride. She carried bags of local specialties left and right, and the child held her satchel. The mother and son talked happily as they walked over. The comrade who picked up the mother and son told me that the wife refused to let the comrade carry the specialties she brought from home for fear of losing them. She also said that it was full of the comrade's favorite specialties. The comrade couldn't hold back his tears when he heard that. He was afraid of being seen, so he hurriedly turned his head and wiped his tears away. After that, he didn't dare to say anything. At this point, Li Jinyan's eyes were faintly red. They were the toughest and most fearless men, and their hearts were also the softest and most tolerant men. Even after such a long time had passed, when the sad past was brought up again, it could still evoke the softness in their hearts that was filled with sorrow. From the northernmost part of our country to the southernmost part, this seemingly weak wife traveled dozens of hours in order to see her husband and bring him joy. She came with her child full of joy. The child wanted to see his father, and the wife wanted to see her husband. Later, what she saw was her husband's face deformed, and his body was swollen to the point that he couldn't even wear a Navy uniform. It's just like that when the sky collapses. The real sky collapses is when the sky in her heart collapses. Despair, gloom, hopelessness. This is the first time I've seen her have nightmares for 3 consecutive nights. Such a topic was a common topic for both of them. Even after waking up from a dream, the feeling was similar. Xia Jinyuan tapped his chest and said in a deep voice, "Every time I wake up, my warm heart feels like it's frozen in ice. There's no warmth at all. It's so cold that I shiver." At that time, I thought that I could never get married. I didn't want to implicate an innocent woman, a family that had nothing to do with me. My chest is so tight that it hurts when I take a breath. When I woke up the next day, all of my comrades had a layer of unbreakable sorrow in their eyes. That feeling is really... Another breath was stuck in his throat, and the two of them fell silent at the same time. It was as if the heart-wrenching cries of the loved ones of their fallen comrades were ringing in their ears. The pain of losing loved ones was even more painful than having one's heart gouged out. In our line of work, it's too dangerous. There's no way we can give our future wives and children a stable life. In that case, it's better not to. After a long time, Li Jinyan said softly, "If we're not careful, they'll be gone. Why bother implicating others?" Chapter 2773. Xia Jinyuan did not answer immediately. He looked at Yi Qian quietly and slowly smiled. "Demon King, I won't accompany you anymore. I will marry Yi Qian. For her, I will definitely live well. I don't dare to slack off during every training session. I'm afraid that if I slack off, my ability to protect myself will decrease and the possibility of me sacrificing myself will increase. I don't dare to slack off for even a second, just so that I can come back alive every time I go to the battlefield. It's the same for Yi Qian. We both work hard to come back alive, so we have to seize the time to train and improve our skills. I have to live well. I have to live for the sake of the worries in my heart. Demon King, you haven't met a girl who makes you want to marry her. When you do, haha, you will understand that love is much more interesting than wiping your gun alone. Li Jinyan quietly looked at the man who would most likely become his sister's husband in the future. He was very strong, so strong that he gave people the feeling that he could do anything. He was also very suitable for his sister. They were a match made in heaven. This pair, nothing must happen to either of them. If something happened to either of them, the other half would probably collapse. Then, he said calmly, "It's good that you know. You have to live well so that you can continue to receive my sister's love. If you die, Q King, I will definitely persuade my sister to find another man. She's so outstanding. Because you pursued her in advance, she missed out on the pursuit of many outstanding men. If you die, so many outstanding men that my sister missed out on might come back." Hearing this, Xia Jinyuan clenched his cheeks. "I will accompany Yi Qian to live a long life and have many children and grandchildren. What suitors? Don't come out and be an eyesore. Then I will wait for the two of you to live a long life and have many children and grandchildren." Li Jinyan smiled faintly. A dim light flashed across his eyes. He naturally hoped that his sister and the person she loved would live a long life and have many children and grandchildren. He knew that Yi Qian was deliberately provoking him. Even though he knew that Yi Qian was doing it on purpose, he still felt very uncomfortable. Only by living well would he be able to see the smile on his beloved girl's face again and make her continue to love him. He had to live well. He had pulled her to his side and walked the same path through the thorny forest. For her, he had to live well. Yi Jian had finished dressing up. Xia Jinyuan jumped up with a determined look. His tall and slender figure stood facing the setting sun, like a pine tree that would never fall to the ground. "Let's go. I have to accompany the girl that I want to marry very much." He didn't invite Li Jinyan to leave with him. Whistling, he walked leisurely and elegantly in his combat uniform towards his girl. There was a smile in Li Jinyan's eyes, as well as a faint trace of envy. He was indeed envious. Like him, Q King, who had never thought of marriage, found his sister and had the urge to get married. As for him, after drifting around for so many years, he had only exchanged a few letters with a girl whose face he couldn't even remember. After that, there was no more after that. If that could be considered a relationship, then he had at least been in a relationship once. But to find a girlfriend as outstanding as his sister who could fight side by side with him. Li Jinyan propped his hands on his knees and stood up, the corners of his mouth twitching self-mockingly. He really wasn't as lucky as Q King to meet a girl as good as his sister. Yi Qian asked Xia Jinyuan, "Your relationship with my brother is much better than before. What were you talking about just now? You seem to be having a good time." Chapter 2774. The short hair in front of her forehead was wet with sweat and was close to the corner of her eyes. Xia Jinyuan, who was speaking, gently pushed the short hair away and smiled. "We talked a lot. Of course, we talked about you the most. Why did you talk about me again? Don't you have anything else to talk about besides me?" Yi Qian glared at him. Xia Jinyuan's smile deepened at her coquettishness. "Talking about you can improve the relationship between brother-in-law and big brother. If my relationship with big brother improves, there will be one less person to stop me from marrying you. Since I have improved my relationship with big brother, there will be one less person to stop me from marrying you. It's a win-win situation, so I have to put in more effort." His teasing tone made Yi Jian elbowed him in the chest. She didn't know what had happened between the two of them, but she elbowed him with more strength. Coincidentally, she elbowed him in the place where he was hit. Xia Jinyuan let out a muffled groan when he was hit. Yi Qian immediately reacted and frowned. "What happened to your chest? What did you get hurt?" "It's nothing. I just had a bad breath." How could he mention the fight? Xia Jinyuan hurriedly changed the topic. "The devil, and I didn't just talk about you. We also talked about other topics. I didn't expect the devil to be the same as me in the past and not want to get married." Yi Qian, who didn't smell the blood, thought it was just a bad breath. She didn't pay attention and changed the topic. Don't want to get married? Why does everyone think so? Everyone. Think so? That was too much information. The perceptive Colonel Xia smelled something unusual. He pretended to ask casually, who else thinks so? Me? I never thought of getting married either. Yi Qian directly admitted that she was one of the everyone in the past. I used to think that marriage was a burden. It was so comfortable to live alone and be alone without any worries. Colonel Xia rubbed his forehead. This is the first time I know that you didn't want to get married in the past. You didn't ask me why I suddenly mentioned that I didn't want to get married. I don't want to get married, but I can't afford to be pestered by you, insisting on giving you a definite answer. I clearly gave you a definite answer, but you still shamelessly stuck to me. Yi Qian glanced at the astonished young lieutenant colonel and said with a smile, I rejected you, but you didn't give up and came again. If I refuse again, you can continue to approach me. Captain Xia, you really made things difficult for me in the past. Is it that difficult? I'm not that shameless. He didn't expect his girlfriend to think of him that way in the past. Colonel Xia felt a little hurt. I used to be pretty good too. Every time I took you out on a mission, I was pretty cooperative. Later on, I even gave you a defensive weapon. Logically speaking, I should have a pretty good image in your heart. Why would you think that I'm shameless? He suspected that he had misheard. Yi Qian was amused by his doubtful expression. That's why I said you're thick-skinned. You don't even know how you're shameless. But I didn't expect that I would be attracted by the shameless Captain Xia in the end. Even though I knew you were in danger, I still couldn't help but want to see you. Xia Jinyuan liked to hear that. Looks like being shameless has its benefits too. You managed to get your girlfriend. Do you think I should teach the bachelors in the team a few tricks? Let them shamelessly chase after the girl they like. No, those tricks are all bad. Yi Qian was afraid that he would ruin their lives and quickly stopped him. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.